I'm gonna tell you, cheers about the most expensive thing you can get involved in. Probably pay $200 for shoes.
Oh, gosh, it was ridiculous.
Got it. For number 2.
It was.
Everybody talk fast.
Yeah.
Why got all these questions? And I want you to ask
I'll
every
tell
one of them.
You're right.
You're like
right
a young
person.
kid. Type them up and send them by email. You're
No,
wrong.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this time I'd like to call to order the City Council Committee meeting of February 25, 2019. Please stand with us for the invocation. Please, to God, in Jesus' name, we just thank you for this day. Rejoice in the life and liberty that you have granted us. Thank you for this community. We pray for the citizens. Pray for those that are sick and afflicted, that you give them healing. Pray for those that are grieved, that you give them comfort. And I pray, dear God, you guide this council and as we discuss the business of this city and try to make decisions that are beneficial to all. We just thank you for the liberty you give us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
don't feel left out. Take it right here for you. It's not gonna be in the
You can give them a great vote. You got all your kids.
All right, we would entertain a motion at this time to approve the published agenda of this day's city council meeting as presented.
Make a motion. Which one are we approving?
We are approving the council committee's meeting.
I second that motion.
All right, got it.
All right, we got a move and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That brings us to announcements. Mr. Osborne.
Just to remind you, at about 6:30, the mayor will ask that you recess these committee meetings so that we can have a special call meeting that you have that agenda at the very front of your book. And the reason we do it at 5:30 start of committees, as you know, is to set that up by resolution, so that's recurring. We don't have to advertise on that call date on the special call meeting. And the reason we have a part 1 and a part 2 is that we want to be sure that during this next hour that you're able to have discussion on those items that will be coming up during the special call meeting. So whatever questions you may have, it is possible, Mr. Mayor and Ms. Miller, that on the Community Development Committee, if item 1 looks like it's going to take longer than about 15 minutes as you get into it, we may have to come back to it later so we can have time to finish up. But that's the reason for the schedule, and so we'll move Mr. Mayor for the Public Works Committee part 1.
All right, thank you, sir. Public Works Committee chaired by Council Member Tom Wallace.
Okay, item number 1, review of information distributed to the city council prior to its February 4th meeting concerning the possible naming of the interchange of Interstate 20 and Georgia Highway 113, exit 19, in Temple in honor of the 3rd U.S. Army Infantry Regiment, and review of a proposed resolution to request the Georgia General Assembly to make this designation. Mr. Osborne.
Just very quickly, and Mr. Robbins is here tonight. He, of course, brought this to your attention. You do have attached the resolution that I have prepared, that if you approve that, that would be that we would take this to Representative Jay Collins for the state of Georgia to look at granting this designation at this exit. Before we move any further, I do want to point out that Mr. Walden may want to make a quick comment on it. We did find, not only did you have a chance, Mr. Walden, to talk to your colleagues about 2011.
I talked to Mr. Bracknell today. He's the only one that I talked to about that.
We did find that, I'm going to ask Mr. Mayor, but can, Mr. Walden, just to give a quick report. From 2011, this council did something on between 78 down to the interchange. So this would be immediately south of what we're talking about here. And I'm not sure that there was ever any follow-through on it. But what we can do, if you wish, is when, Mr. Mayor, when you give the information to Representative Collins on the interchange, if you wish, we've got that information on, between the north side of the interchange to 78. Mr. Paul?
When Mr. Osborne first, or when we first got the information, the gentleman wants to do the exit ramp down there, for the memorial there, I thought they were talking about doing 113 on that, so like I said, we had. And at that time, I had remembered there was something done several years ago, and I told Mr. Osborne, and I looked back, and there was a resolution, that Councilman at the time, Councilman J. Mann, had brought up. And it was to honor Hank Hopkins.
Lived right out there in that little white house, don't you remember Jay bringing that up across from Larry?
And anyway, at that time, Ms. Miller, Mr. Bracknell, and Ms. Bivens
Yes.
was on the council, but nobody ever followed up on it. And I didn't know, if you wanted to keep pursuing that. But I did want to let Mr. Osborne let the council know that, the resolution is there. For they want to do that.
Well, Cynthia Daly was our attorney at that time, and she had contacted the state of Georgia about renaming it, and then she left. I mean, we had a change of,
But yeah, contact had been made. So I think whatever we need to do, we should do it, because that was actually duly done. So if nothing has been done, we need to.
That would just be a matter of what sign.
Well, yes, of course, you gotta get, GDOT has to
I
decide
was
they're
just
gonna do
gonna say
it.
that was
But I
the
mean,
problem.
we can provide
Well,
information on this one, and if you
It may have
approve the
may have
one
been
before you
rejected.
tonight, it's possible, but most of the time, if it's rejected, it's not outright rejection, they just never get around to do it. But we can check it and see. Because they got a couple of changes in administration since that time.
Could be our delegation that pushed it.
Anyway, that was back in September the 8th, 2011. So,
But we can,
Yeah, I think we should move forward with
yeah, we can pass that on, we'll get that ready.
but I just didn't want to make y'all aware of it.
Mr. Osborne, probably the quickest thing to do, if you could just email Miss Daly and ask her, she surely should have the notes and stuff on that. This actually was our attorney at that time.
She was brand new in 2008, that's on.
Okay.
But now, what we're talking about now, is the interchange itself, right?
Yes.
This would be, as I understand it, would be the exits going west and the exits going east. Exit going
Just
east.
got a memorial on it, for the regiment, the third, what was it, third regiment?
Third Army.
Yes.
Third Infantry, I'm sorry. Not the Third
Yes.
Army.
Third Army.
Not to be confused with the Army or the division.
Right.
Excuse me.
I make a motion. I make whatever we need to do, that we move forward with it.
We can vote on it. But it's
Well-
on, it's
We
on
can
the
move forward
agenda
with
here.
it.
It will be in
Yes.
the meeting,
Yes.
so we'll do it there, or we can do it.
Any other questions? Okay, item number 2, report by the City of Temple's consulting engineer Howard Ray concerning any request of the City of Temple needs to make the State of Georgia Environment Protection Division for a deadline extension beyond February 28th of documents currently being prepared for submission to EPD. And Mr. Ray is not here for Mr. Osborne.
Before Mr. Osborne speaks on this, if it pleases the council, Mr. Randy Atkins would like to address us about some things, concerns about that. I think it would be more appropriate probably to precede number 3 instead of number 2 on this list.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we can go ahead with number 2, and then we'll allow Mr. Atkins to speak before number 3.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Osborne.
Okay, in Kristen, did you give out the revised resolution to everybody?
I believe it should be on the table, yes. I hope so, there's a lot of it on there.
What we had done is put in your books a proposed
Mr. Bratton, yours is
resolution
Okay.
to do a 45-day moratorium on the issuance of residential building permits. And this follows up from the discussion that you had on February 12th during the joint meeting of the Temple Planning Commission. What the revised resolution that you have is Mr. Pilgrim. He had made several suggestions that really did not change the content, did a couple clarifications, and so I made those, and there was one other that, if you wish, we can put in, and that would be just to show that when we talk about additional residential building permits, that what we're talking about basically would be a new groundbreaking, or we're starting a new house, as opposed to somebody was going to do an addition, like a bathroom remodeling or something of that nature. What this is aimed at is giving you an opportunity to finish up the development code, to make appropriate changes in the zoning code, and as the information that you find attached to the revised resolution, is Mr. Pilgrim is suggesting that we go ahead tonight with the moratorium, but then we would go ahead during the course of the moratorium and be working on what I just mentioned, but we also have a public hearing and do that in about a little over 15, 16 days.
We were on this right here.
Yeah,
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
So is it us confused or you confused?
I'm
we're
confused.
doing the
Yeah.
stormwater right now.
Oh, okay, well, let's back to
Swamp
that.
extension.
Yeah.
So the swamp extension, I don't have a copy of, but I'm looking on the Highland.
That's the one that was on the table, correct?
What confused me was this was the last thing that we've got now. Yeah.
So the swamp-
Basically, what we've got is back in December of 2017, EPD approved and issued to the city. You've got a letter, the last page, under this tab is that they had reissued our permit effective December 6, 2017. That was, of course, the preceding administration. We had Dwayne was here. I have no idea, frankly, if I received it and passed it on to Dwayne, or what happened to the permit, if we passed it on to Howard Ray, don't know. But the bottom line is that, having received that, we have 180 days to submit a new stormwater management program. That was not done. And so, when we got this letter, when the mayor got the letter the other day, we began to scramble to see kind of what the situation was. Realized that we had not done what needed to be done. It will take some time to do that. We're working on it. What you have on the resolution that got in front of you, basically what you find in this letter from EPD saying that our new deadline is February 28th. No way to meet that deadline. And so that failure to respond to this letter that they sent us may result in additional enforcement, including some type of monetary situation. What this aims at through the resolution is basically acknowledging that we have not submitted the new stormwater management program. We accept responsibility for not having submitted it by the June 4, 2018 deadline. We appreciate their new deadline that they've given us, and and we're working on it, but there's no way that we can meet that deadline, that they're telling us that we had by to give them a response, before the deadline, and this, resolution is our response saying we're working, and that, we would, resolve that, that they be, EPD be requested to grant us an extension until Tuesday, April 16th for the submission of this new stormwater management program. And working with Howard Ray, and he's not here tonight because his wife had been in an automobile accident, and she's doing okay, and he stayed with her tonight. So the resolution would let us give them a response, ask them for an extension. Maybe they will grant it, maybe they won't. But the bottom line is we can't produce the document by the end of this week because there's a lot of work that's got to be done.
Howard, go ahead.
I just want to make sure that date would give us enough time because the development code also refers to complying with the stormwater plan. So will we have enough time to have that development code passed in reference to this?
We're talking about 45 days on the moratorium we're looking at on housing to get the development code. Howard says that we'll have things back on the development code in the next few days. We're looking at, still thinking we might be able to make your April 1 meeting on the development code, and if not, then a special call during the first half of the month. So yes, based on all of that, we should be okay.
Any other questions?
The moratorium is separate from the development code, that's a zoning issue, though.
Yes, sir, I confused myself, and therefore, what I was saying earlier in terms of the moratorium on permits,
So that has nothing to do
it doesn't have
with
anything to do with
development
what we're talking about there. I looked at it wrong and picked up the wrong items, my apologies.
code. Okay, a little more clear.
Anyone else? Now, Randy,
Yes, sir.
do you have something to say? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. My name's Randy Atkins, 312 Little Rosa Road, resident. My problem really goes hand in hand with what you're talking about with the stormwater management. Through either faulty civil engineering or through no fault of anybody, a lot of water is coming down Little Rosa Road, it's flowing into a catch basin, which diverts the water across the road into Mr. Stedham's pasture, wherefore it runs in his pasture, down through, across my property, and into the other property where it ponds up. It's washing out my driveway every time it rains, every single time it rains. I don't know why they diverted the water across the road into the pasture, but I think stormwater is supposed to be funneled into creeks and, right-of-ways like that, but like I said, faulty civil engineering or, just inadvertently, my property, Mr. Stedham's property, and the property down below me is now part of the City of Temple stormwater management system. And I'm coming from some relief, actually, but every time it rains, so much water comes down through that area, it's washing out my driveway. It used to go down the side of the road, but they put a system where the culvert that comes out from underneath the street, they put drip route down through there and just funnel it straight into Mr. Stedham's pasture, which is not very far up from my property. And the amount of water that's coming down from the top of Villa Rosa at the stop sign, all the way down the road, it's a lot of water accumulates and runs into that system. So I'm really not sure what I'm asking for, but some kind of relief from the water coming down through my property. And as it stands right now, my property is part of the City of Temple's stormwater management system. What can we do about it?
Has anybody looked at it, Mr. Austin, to see what's going on and what could be done? Has anybody done that?
I have asked Howard Ray, 2 years ago, Howard Ray was supposed to come down and go over that with me, never did show up. And I've asked him several times since, and he hadn't showed up. So,
But it's the way the city of Temple diverts its water that's
the
called.
city of Temple diverts the stormwater.
Have you been down to look at that, Mr. Arthur? Can you go look and get us some idea of what we need or something? I don't know.
What about George looked at?
Huh? Or Howard Ray or somebody?
George and I get with Howard, we meet with him.
I've been down there and I've looked at it.
So we-
George has looked at it,
Information.
and we mapped it out, looked at it on the map, and like we were talking about, my property is part of the city of Temple's stormwater management. There's no way around it. It's not like, water flows downhill, true, but water is flowing downhill into a catch basin, which is diverted across the street into a pasture land, which is not a big area of Mr. Steadman's pasture land. And it's such a volume of water that it now just keeps on coming down through.
One thing that I was suggesting is that we don't have, we don't have a clue. You can't do it, I can't see it, but maybe that Mr. Osborne could get with you and set up to take Howard Ray or whomever down and get us some kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that would be better than us, we have empathy for it, but we can't visualize what it would take to fix it. So would that be okay? Maybe just to let them come down and get with you and see if there's a way or anything that we can do?
Richard George looked at it. He said,
Did you come up with any solutions on it, George?
Pardon?
When you looked at it, did you see any solutions on it?
Yeah, I did. What happens is when they diverted that water, they took it out of the natural path that ran along the side of the road, and they diverted out in Mr. Steadman's pasture. Back then in the day, it was pretty much grass and stuff like that, and it would absorb it.
Right.
But now it doesn't, there's no cover on the ground or anything there. Now, Mr. Steadman's pasture basically forms a V. That water hits that V, shoots out downhill, across his driveway, all the way down to a creek. Now, normally that little pursuit would be called a head.
Actually, it doesn't go down all the way to the creek. Now it just,
Probably.
we're ponding up down with the tire, the tire down,
Lake.
the tire down, my leg. And now that water is backing up onto
So
my
what's the
property.
solution?
The solution would be to install a culvert on his driveway. He would buy a culvert, and we would put it in for him. That's maintaining of a storm system. That's what we would do if somebody had a problem with there because of our stormwater washout. That's what I would think we would do, but that's up to you guys to decide something like that.
There's no driveway drain there.
Pardon?
There's not a driveway drain.
No, there's not.
Well, I didn't need one back in the day when the water took its natural course down the sides of the road. I didn't, my driveway was dry. I even have, a long time ago, I forgot, I have a septic tank in that area that Carroll County, permitted me to put down there. And you couldn't even be used anymore now because of the amount of water that's coming down through there, because it didn't used to come down through the pasture, over my property, through the other property. It used to run down the sides of the road. But since it's all been paved now, and from where that catch basin is, all the way up to the top of Villa Road, that is a lot of paved area that's catching all the water flowing down that side of the road into the catch basin, and it goes underneath the road into the pasture. From what I understand, the water is supposed to be diverted into natural creeks and,
What catch basins or,
yeah,
natural
catch
catch basins.
basins. But it's natural catch basins, but it's turned the water into my property. There's nothing, there wasn't any grass.
No, there's no grass in there.
The Mr. Center property, and you can see the track that the water is taken from the culvert and the riprap straight across down through my property. It's not coming from the pasture, it's coming from that city installed drain whenever they did it. I'm not sure if they did it for the benefit of the townhomes across the street from where I live or what. I really don't know why there to be shot across the street into the pasture. If it ran all the way down, it would run into the creek. Next to the pump station.
What if it's agreeable with you, what we'll do is get George and Bill to schedule with Mr. Ray to come out and look at what you're talking about and see if Howard has any even better ideas to correct what needs to be corrected. If that's-
You know, I would appreciate it.
All right.
The next time it rains, I was gonna go get my kayak out and take some pictures going down through there. Because I have enough water going out through there that I can float my kayak almost down to the creek. You know, it didn't used to be that way. And I know the rain has picked up some lately, but it doesn't seem like it's gonna slow down any either. And like I said before, when the water ran down through down the sides of the road, the way it was supposed to, before they stopped up one side of the road so that water would shoot over into the pasture. And it doesn't seem like it should have gone that way anyway, to me, but.
All right.
But anyway, I'm part of your stormwater system now.
Thank you for your volunteer.
You volunteer, yeah, but
I'm sure it's been worse this winter with all the rain.
reluctant on it. Yeah, I would like if we could get Harold, Ray, and everybody down to look at it, to see what could be done. I'm, reasonable with that. I just, I fixed my driveway when we moved back, because it was starting to wash away, and now all the gravel that was on the driveway is down and going that way. And I just don't know what to do about it. If I fix it, it's gonna wash on off again,
Well, hopefully when they come down and take a look at it, they can give us a plan. You know, it's, like I say, it's kind of hard to visualize it, or to visualize a plan.
I got pictures.
No, but I mean, how to fix it. They can present us a plan so that we know exactly what we need to do, how much, that kind of, does that make sense?
Yeah, that would be great. I'm at a loss why they shot it over in Mississippi Pass in the first place. Because it used to run down the side of the road, like it's supposed to, go downhill. But it doesn't anymore, it goes sideways. But I would appreciate it.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate you bringing it to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Any other questions or anything? Okay, item number 3, staff report on the city sewer treatment plant and other sewage system facilities, including the Villa Rosa and the Lakeview lift station. George?
Actually, that's one we determined at staff meeting this morning, we were not ready to make a report on.
Oh, that's great. Number 4, staff report on the status of the city of Temple's recruitment and selection activities to fill the vacant position of Public Works Director. Mr. Osborne?
We put this on the agenda for the executive, for your special meeting, just in case we were ready to make a decision. What I would say at this time is the individual that we were talking to, we're continuing to have discussion. By the end of this week, I think we will know if we've got something for you to act on Monday night or not. I think Monday night you will be able to put to rest with this particular candidate, either selecting him because we've been able to come up with an agreement that's in line with your discussion previously, or we will know that he will no longer be a candidate. So no action, will be taken tonight in your special call meeting, but we are continuing to work on this.
All right, that concludes Public Works Committee Part 1.
All right, thank you, sir. Community Development Committee, chairperson is Holly Miller.
Staff reports concerning an upcoming review and some possible subsequent changes in the Temple City Code, including nuisances, Chapter 20 of the Temple City Code, subdivisions, Chapter 30 of the Temple City Code, and zoning, Chapter 38 of the Temple City Code. Mr. Stella and Mr. Osborne.
Well, while George was coming up, if you will flip back, this is the fitness tab you've got. It's about the 10th tab back. There's a little demo of the report from the code enforcement. We could you'll start, you'll see there's a big section with a lot of code appearing pages.
Well, simply, what we got right here is the International Property Management Code. This is a code that would mostly pertain to me as a code enforcement, but this also pertains to all the buildings going up within the city of Temple. You have a question?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I was just looking through.
So, you know, this, the Carroll County, through our agreements, does the building inspector code, the HVAC, plumbing, and everything like that. So we're covered there, but as far as when we come to problems that exist, such as an abandoned property that we can't get taken care of. Right now, our ordinance is outdated and it does not comply with the state law, which is 41.2.7 under the nuisance. And what this will do is bring us in compliance with that, and we will be able to go to our municipal court and start the process to take care of blighted properties, removing the rubbish and the garbage and whatever else is there, and maintaining Temple as it should be set. So, with that said, I think it's something we need now, because, for instance, we had a house that should have been condemned, and a family was living in it, paid $850 a month. But without having this sign, we can't really condemn the place. It's just not according to state law. And so what I gave you is a sample. It's actually Villa Rica's, and I've looked at Rockmart's and Cedar Towns and everybody else's, and it looks very similar. Everything looks very similar to that, and that will allow us to enforce some of the codes we need to enforce.
And I just to kind of add to that, we've redone Rockmart's and Cedar Towns and to some degree over the last 6 years. They've been looked at, so it's something that definitely need, and we can help you put it in place with using a lot of plagiarism in other cities.
And believe me, I can use this real soon.
Any other questions?
All we have to do is put it on the agenda and adopt it. Have an ordinance for it.
You would need an ordinance to be fairly, nuisance ordinance to be a fairly substantial ordinance.
I thought it was something that's in there.
Yeah, this one is adopting the state codes, the minimal state standards, and this one comes up under that. The actual nuisance code is a totally different code that we were looking at, that I'm still working on.
This right here, 2006.
Yeah, that's it, and if you look at the, I think it's the second page of the proposed ordinance, it tells you everything that's adopted in it. Keep going. Should be next page. No, next page. Okay, that's it, is that where it starts?
Said building or.
Yep, and it tells all the building, all the codes, all the international codes, including building, plumbing, that, swimming pools, everything that we can enforce comes up under these codes, and this adopts the state standards, so we don't have to constantly re-adopt when the state standards, their standards, we keep these standards. And under these standards comes the International Property Management Code.
Yeah, and so you're talking about like the standards for, just the standards that you use as opposed to how you enforce them. Typically, those work hand in hand with your nuisance code, and your nuisance code tells you, okay, somebody's violating your
Right, and
standards, how do we go?
And we can do that right now with this, with our nuisance code, but we do need to upgrade the nuisance code so that, you know, like.
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So what this does, this is a adoption of the minimum state standards for buildings, for pools, for HVAC, for plumbing, for property management. And there's a list right here. I think, yeah, right here.
So this one, doesn't do that?
Yes, that's what that does. And then again, we have to give it to the attorneys to look at to make sure the wording's all right.
No, I'm talking about the one that was adopted on 8408.
And if you look at my note on there, that was adopted in '08, and in 2010, the state legislature adopted 41.2.7, which rendered that obsolete.
Okay, but we're doing the exact same thing, because because we adopted the state minimum codes, we used the wrong number. But it would have been the same thing if we'd used the right numbers?
No, it was just, the states changed the law on us after 2010. Our code was adopted in '08, and so they added Title 41 in 2010. And we can't enforce our code because we don't comply with the state standard on that for international property management and dealing with that part of the code. Meaning, if we found an abandoned property, we can do something with it. And now if we can, we'll be following the minimal state standards with the IPMC.
That goes back to my question, can we just put this something on the agenda and adopt this?
That's,
I'm asking this,
Yeah, typically those things are done hand in hand. When we brought Rockmart and Cedartown up to date, we said, okay, what are the new standards that we're gonna use to, when we enforce our nuisance code? And in their actual nuisance code, I think, it just says, you know, for X, we use such and such standards. And you just, there's not a copy of this in our code, it just is imported in by reference.
yeah, that was just for.
So it's usually done all at the same time as you beefing up your nuisance.
So, but this became obsolete 2 years after it was done. If you adopt a minimum standard, does it do it again?
Well, typically, the language that you use for your standards, you would say as amended from time to time, so that if those standards get amended, you can continue to use. And of
So it
course,
would basically be the exact same thing, just changing the language there?
I think so. Now, I'm not familiar with y'all's nuisance code or what's may not be in there.
No,
It sounds like there may not be much of it.
It's not, you know, there's not much in there.
Yeah,
In the
so-
state standard, so that's why, that's another project that we're working on.
Right.
But this right here is for like the building. This is like for all the other stuff.
Just to have the standards in there is very simple. It's usually a 2-sentence word within your nuisance code. You know, for the nuisance code, we use IPMC standards, if that's what you want.
But we don't have a nuisance code.
Yeah, we have a nuisance code, but we don't have the adoption of minimum standards that is current with state requirements right now. We had an old one in '08, but I can't use it to enforce the property management code right now, or any of the building code for that matter.
Then it sounds like you're also saying that the nuisance code itself needs to be brought up to date since then.
That's a bigger project.
So have you reviewed all of this?
I have not.
Maybe that needs to be the next step.
I think so.
After the development code.
Then finish the development code
We're
first.
gonna get on this.
Right.
You really, of course, that's why you're asking about it, but you have to have that, where you want it to be, so that you can enforce your nuisances.
Right. Because right now, even with our nuisance code, it says we can do a FIFA just on the judge's order, but we really can't do that according to state law. Any other questions?
So all we can do is wait on this, right? Can't do any action.
Basically, we just wanted to bring it to you so we can start the ball rolling.
And what you're recommending is that we coordinate and put together what we're talking about with this, along with the nuisance code at the same time.
That's right.
And you do it all in one page.
Yes, yeah.
Like that one page.
And we can get together.
Our development code has to be completed first.
Oh, maybe it's, or.
No,
I don't
priority.
suppose it has to.
Yeah.
Priorities.
Would that also be the same for the subdivision and the zoning?
Yes, that all goes together, exactly. Unless Bill has anything else in that for it.
No? Any other questions? Moving on to item P. Review of a proposed resolution to place a 45-day moratorium on the issuance of building permits by the city of Temple.
And I apologize that I jumped the gun on that earlier, but On that tab, if you go to the tab and go over to that fourth page, you will see a resolution that's marked as properly advised by city attorney office. Basically, as I mentioned, this is the response that we would be making to the letter that we received from EPD, which is the final page under this tab, it's the final page. This is right. But I'm trying to get myself confused all over. Let me stick with what I'm looking at. The
Short-term.
in the second paragraph, we will be adding a couple of clarifying words that they've gotten from Mr. Pilgrim, basically to show that that when we talk about no new and/or additional residential permits to be sold by the city government, that we'd be talking about new housing starts as opposed to a bathroom remodeling or something of that nature. And as is stated in the memo from Mr. Pilgrim, we'll go ahead with the moratorium, and then we would look at, while we're working on this under the moratorium, we also would have a public hearing in 15, 16 days. So this is what, and we'll get to the special call meeting, we'll be asking you to approve.
Can I ask a question? What is the purpose of this?
You at the meeting, so you know what Mr. Walden had presented, and we need to get a handle on that, so we make sure that the new housing in the city of Temple corresponds with the quality of housing that we've had built here in recent years, because you don't have anything at the moment that prevents other kind of housing from being built.
So does the adoption of the zoning fix this, or is it going to be something else?
Well, we would be looking at making changes in the zoning ordinance. I can't think of anything else we might need to do. That's one reason for having the moratorium, so we can make sure
Figure out.
we're covering everything we need to do.
What we have to do is some appeal standards and to make the homes more, make them compatible with the existing homes. So,
Any other questions? Item number 3, report on follow-up activities from the February 12th joint meeting of the Temple City Council and the Temple Planning Commission preparatory to the holding of 2 public hearings and the anticipated adoption by the City Council in April of this municipality's first comprehensive development. Mr. Ross.
If you go immediately past that thick tab that you were just discussing with George, you will find a note that says memo committee development code and future land use plan and map. And basically what we're saying here with the development code, we're expecting to get information back from Mr. Ray. He says that he will have it to us shortly. There are some things that we would need to be working on as we move into March. I would hope that we would be in a position to have a public hearing sometime between March 15 and 20, that we would be ready to have a public hearing at that time, and that we hope that we can get things in order so that we can have a second public hearing in advance of your Monday, April 1st City Council meeting, so that we can go ahead and get the development code approved. But that's my hope at this time in terms of getting that in place, because we do need to try to get this done within the next 45 days if at all possible. So from the standpoint of the development code, you should be getting some information from of us from Howard Ray from Kerry Pilgrim in the next few days. And like I say, hopefully, we'll be in a position to have that first public hearing, around the 15th to the 20th, and immediately after the public hearing on that night, we have a joint meeting of the planning commission and the mayor and council. And if everybody's together on everything, might even be in a position so the planning commission could go ahead and recommend the development code to the city council. So that's what the plan is this time, see if we can meet that schedule. Questions? Then the next part, future land use plan and map, and that's just saying we need to wrap up the development code first. But my hope is that around the end of May, the end of April, the 1st of May, we can have the first meeting of the mayor, council, and the planning commission looking at our starting work on our future land use plan, which is over to you also.
Any questions? Do we need a recommendation to go ahead and put that on the agenda for the?
Well, we don't need to do anything at this point, because we got to get things back from Mr. Ray and work that through. But it is possible that, and we'll be talking with Mr. Ray, if we see that we're ready for, we think we could do something in mid-March on the public hearing, we can add that item to your agenda for your Monday, March 4th meeting.
Moving on, item 4, status report on the project to upgrade the city of Temple's future land. Oh, that, I guess we just
And
followed
I
that
just
too. Yep.
combined
Okay. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Public Safety Committee, chaired by Mr. Howard Baldwin.
Yes, sir, thank you, Mayor. Item number 1, staff reports concerning a request of the city for the approval of the recreational flying of drones over the city park concerning the accompanying public safety aspects. Chief Lee.
Well, the chief is coming up, there's going to be 3 of us that will just make very brief comments. And you see this in the memo that I had given you. We had a request from someone about flying drones. The chief and I talked, and you wanted to restrict them. And so you got information here on the restriction. The park director feels like there's not enough room to let it be done at all. He's here and he'll voice his opinion. And the resolution that I had drafted, basically, depending on if you have an interest in looking at doing anything, would be to have it on the agenda so we could see what would be involved with the attorney, or whatever we might need to do, or if after listening to what the chief says and Mr. Wilson says, if we say we don't have any interest in doing this at all, then we can move on otherwise.
Well, I did some checking around with some other departments, and I was told by Bill Ricker, which the mayor currently flies drones. He said they don't have anything in place on it. They hadn't had a problem with it, but it's still up to the city if they want to set some kind of standard on how they want to fly the drones. Dealing with the park director too, is if they want to let a person fly drones and airplanes out there by the kids out there, which I personally think not. Probably could designate a day or time or something like when the park is not in there, don't have any activities or something like that, they're free to do it, because there is a certain amount of footage that you can fly anyway. And invade somebody's privacy, all that's gonna come into play. You flying it, it's gonna be over somebody's house, you're gonna get a bunch of calls on somebody, think somebody's spying on them. So the city can put that in the ordinance if they would like to, just the same as we did the golf cart and the skateboards in town. So it's gonna be up to you guys if y'all wanna go ahead and do it, but I personally wouldn't wanna go ahead and do it, because you're gonna have people from all kind of areas coming out here. You wanna fly one, you're gonna have 3 or 4 other people out here flying drones, and next thing you know, one's gonna fall down, hit a kid on the head, or do something like that. So It's up to how y'all wanna set it, you can leave it where it is now until we have any further problems, not deal with it, or just go ahead and get it right now while we got the chance. I mean, I haven't seen it a problem, but like I said, it is gonna become one, because everybody's starting to get them and wanna fly out.
Just a question. Do we have many people doing it now?
No, this is that was the first time. Now, I think Joe did tell me he saw a person or two out there flying one, plane, the little planes too.
I had a
Those
lady
are
tell me
dangerous.
she saw
Yeah,
somebody out there a couple of weeks ago that was flying a plane.
Those are really dangerous, because you lose control of that controller, there's a plane coming down somewhere.
I do want Mr. Wilson to be able to comment to you. He might be able to answer that question also.
Come on up.
I'm against it because of that, you know, a couple people fly airplanes up there over the soccer field, and I've seen 2 of them come down out of control. So, I mean, unless they're gonna set hours, like early in the morning when we don't have anything going on, that's an option, but, you know, I would be against it because I don't think that they're safe. In Rainy Road area, there's only a little bit of space up there they could fly because there are houses and things on that side where our fields are, so I don't think they're safe, but that's something you don't have to decide.
What are the liability issues?
You know, that's hard to say. I guess, you know, you can't control what everybody comes out there and does anymore. You can. Somebody can play baseball. I think it's really more of a question of, is it just something you want to limit, to get out ahead of it?
Well, I guess my question is, say someone's out there operating a drone and, you know, bad thing happens, it comes down, it damages somebody physically, or it damages a vehicle, or it damages something. Whose liability is it? Is it the person who's operating the drone?
Should be.
I mean, that would be first liability, yes, but there's always a chance that somebody's gonna say, why did you let him come out?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would still be in city property regardless.
So if we were to impose this restriction from the legal standpoint, that would help mitigate that potential of us being the subject of some kind of legal action.
And possibly so. And just like you would have rules in place for anything you didn't want people doing on your recreational.
I would say if y'all did decide to go ahead and set some kind of rule, like Joe said, it be some stipulation saying that it's a certain time frame early in the morning, and due to the park, due to the city having special events, because something like Founder's Day, be out up, you know, we say early in the morning and leave that gap out, somebody decide they want to come on Founder's Day at 9 o'clock in the morning and start flying a drone, because it didn't say we couldn't fly it other than this time, Pacific time in the morning. So I would go with early hours in the morning if you just had to, and get with him on what time the activity started at the rec department and cut it off right there, and also stating that due to the city not having any special events, anything going on. But other than that, I would just leave it alone and so we can see what happens and not even let them fly it out there.
I think there should be some kind of common ground on it, though. It is a recreational thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because you get a lot of backlash from people saying, I can't fly, because, you know, we got that from the skateboarders, when they banned the kids from riding skateboards through town and stuff, they was like, you know, it was true, we don't have anything for the kids to do, where could they go? They can't do anything, they banned it here, banned it there, so I think if you leave that little gap in there early in the morning, you know, and would let them fly, that's gonna be the only time, and then weekend due to no activities or events, then you can fly.
Yeah, if there's no ball.
And post it up there, yeah. Therefore, if somebody do decide to come in and decide they want to fly a drone on Saturday, and Joe them decide to hold some kind of practice, he is liable to go over to say, hey, you can't fly them right now, we got practice, and then they can say, I didn't know it, and then he can say, there's the signs right here, we had it posted, we had this in place. So that's what I would do. Because it is gonna be like, well, they can't do nothing.
Why is this an issue?
We had a call, somebody requested, somebody called
department.
That they wanted to, or?
And why is the reason not to let them?
Public safety.
Just public safety.
Well, if it's for public safety, I don't see why you would ever let them do it. I
I mean,
mean,
is it?
there's always somebody that's caught.
Crash into.
Right.
That's what I agree on.
Concerned about
Property.
physical damage to people or property damage to automobiles that might be sitting there.
You got senior citizens up there with their cars, walking, and,
Like there's kids flying in.
What's the legal standing of drones flying anywhere? You know, the airplanes are all over around us, so.
That's the question that came to my mind more than the liability issue, is that how does it interact with FCC? You know,
It's 400 feet.
400 feet.
And you can't climb over 400 feet.
Oh.
That's anywhere.
400 feet
400
within,
feet,
from
yeah.
the ground?
That's what I was told, yeah, 400 feet.
So,
What was Bill Rick's?
that they
What was Bill
would fly
Rick's
into
rule?
something.
Yeah, lose control of it.
they don't have.
You
You know, some kind of mishap.
That thing on 61? The football fields, the baseball fields?
Yeah, they don't have any kind of ordinance to keep anybody from flying over there.
I thought about, I've got one, I've never flown. And I was thinking that'd be a good place to fly because there's all kinds of parking out there
Right.
Yeah.
where they shoot fireworks.
I'm trying to figure what the
There's areas.
a reason to not to, because you fly
Pastors
over sporting events and you film them. I mean, it's not like this is just a toy thing. These things are extremely expensive, and, you know, you're not going, I don't think anybody would turn a $3,000 or $2,000
Yeah, it happens.
to a kid and let them, but I mean,
Well, you got the less
You got
expensive ones
cheap-
too, that they
cheap.
got $100, they crash them and they buy parts, they got some that they crash and parts don't break and they train with them. I mean, it's just the fact that you got something flying overhead and they lose control of them all the time. And then you got the person that don't fly drones, fly the little airplanes. So what you gonna tell them? You can fly a
well,
drone
it's
without an
different from
airplane.
a remote control airplane and a drone.
All of them
There's
is
a
remote.
significant difference between a drone and a remote control. And I think I would have a problem with remote control, but I don't know the problem I would have with a drone.
Well, it's remote control. I mean,
But it's-
what's the difference?
You looking at speed versus still is height, something coming
Everything
down.
about it is different. I mean, you know, the whole guidance system is a lot different. And so if you got a $3,000 drone out there, you're not gonna be doing crazy stuff. with
But
it.
you have drones, you can buy now for $70, $60. I mean, they're not that expensive. You can pay
Might be $100.
They go up to
$100,
$2,000,
yeah, three or
but
four.
you got some $50 out there.
I mean, they got, but,
You can get them at Sounds Club.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
And you got all the people training and learning how to fly the cheaper ones, and then when they get the big ones, then they might go somewhere else. You gotta think, you got a person, he wanna learn how to fly a drone, he gonna buy a $100 drone and go and practice on Temple's Field.
Okay, but if
And that's when it
this,
comes
if this
down.
is true and we eliminate all chances for them to do it, so the only thing they can do is be flying them illegally because we're closing the door and telling them they can't. But at the same time, we're talking about that everybody has them and there should be a place where they could fly. We should, I mean, you know,
That's true.
it's not like, I mean, it's just, it's like, I don't understand why we try to control it because we're not.
Well, leave the
They're
window.
going to get them, they're going to fly them.
I just bought a
Maybe
TV.
it should be something a little bit different than banning them 100%.
Well, that's what I said. It's the first time when I said about the kids with the skateboard thing. It became a big problem back here 10 years ago when they banned the skateboards downtown Temple. Kids are riding, getting hit by cars and tearing property up and doing all kind of vandalism.
Yeah.
And they banned them from riding skateboards. So now the thing is, what could they ride? So we told them to go
They
to the
ride
rec
them down the
department.
street.
The rec department
They
closed.
ride them down the street. Because you're not going to stop it. They're riding them down the street.
Leave that window open and put that time frame in it in the morning time and shut it off when we got events. Because if you
Yeah,
got an event out there,
give
you don't
them
want to fly
time
them.
when they're in school.
What's that?
Why not, we're going to say, okay, while you're in school, cut classes and go fly your
It's
drone.
summertime. And weekends, we got Saturday, Sunday they can do it on. They're not in school, and then they got summertime, they got school.
So you're only
school breaks.
proposing that we ban it while there's an actual,
I'm not saying ban it the whole, every day. I'm saying just stop it at a certain time frame. Because if I got a child out there playing, I don't want people flying drones over my kid. Because when it comes down, ain't nothing you can tell me.
You probably have drones probably flown over you many a time, you didn't even know it.
Well,
Because they're everywhere, buddy.
This past weekend, somebody was out there flying them because they posted on the Facebook page that they left their manual up there. They lost their manual, so if anybody found their manual, please return it. So,
All right, we need to pause. We entertain a motion to suspend our committee meeting until we get finished with our special call meeting.
We suspend our committee meetings.
All right. Do I hear a second? All in favor, let me know by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. So we will call to order the City Council special call meeting of February 25, 2019. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the published agenda of this date City Council meeting as
Since I already
presented.
had the wrong one.
We have a motion.
I second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, let me know by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. New business, item number 1. Adopt a resolution requesting the Georgia General Assembly to name the interchange of Interstate 20 and Georgia Highway 113, exit 19 in Temple, in honor of the 3rd U.S. Army Infantry Regiment, also known as the Old Guard. Mr. Osborne.
And we've had the discussion on this, so I think it's a matter of what you want to do.
I make a motion, we send the request.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. It's in your book. Is it necessary to read this out or not?
No.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I will just add, I took the time to talk to some local veterans, some elderly folks, and they were good with it. Thought it was a good idea, so.
Good, thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
We'll pass that on to our delegation in Atlanta. All right, item number 2. Adopt a resolution to place a 45-day moratorium on the issuance of building permits by the city of Temple.
I make a motion, we adopt the resolution.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. All right, item number 3. Do you wish to adopt a resolution to restrict the use of drones over Temple City Park, or do you rather take no action at this time?
I would like to table that. Let's not take any action at this time. I don't think we've had enough discussion on it, so we can make sure we all understand it before we pass something we cannot do.
Explain to the people.
All right, so is that, Mr. Attorney, is that the right action as we table it?
I think that's fine.
All right, we have a motion to table. Have a second to table. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. All right, so that item is tabled.
We will have a discussion back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, item number 4, depending on the status of background checks and discussions, one more candidates, possibly take action to appoint an individual to fill the vacant position of Public Works Director for the City of Temple. As reported earlier, we will not be taking action tonight in that regard. Item number 5, in response to information and a request from consulting engineer Howard Ray, consider approving a request to be made to the State of Georgia Environmental Protection Division for an extension of the current deadline for submittal of one or more reports to this agency. And we've had that discussion earlier. What's your
I make
pleasure?
a motion to approve the resolution.
All right, we have a motion.
I second.
Have a second. Any additional discussion? All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
But before we move on, I just want to be sure the minutes and the special meeting reflect that the moratorium would only be on new groundbreaking and not on remodel projects and things of that nature. We said that in committees. I want to be sure these minutes reflect the same.
All right.
Thank you.
Ms. Etheridge, we okay there?
Got it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, no need for executive session. We hold closing comments until the end of the committee's meeting. All right, so I entertain a motion to adjourn
Make a motion
this
to
special
adjourn.
call meeting. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned from the special call meeting. Yes, and we will have to take a 4-minute break.
Yeah.
Oh, 4 minutes.
I said the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a break would be
Wow,
nice.
that's a record. Woo, man, make a note. Do you need a break? Anybody need a break?
Roll on.
All right, okay. Do I entertain a motion to resume the city council committees meeting?
Make a motion, we resume, baby, resume.
Here a second.
Yes, I second.
All in favor, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, that brings us back to where we were. And we were under Public Safety Committee, Mr. Howard Walden, and discussing the drones.
I was going to ask a question. Could you and Chief and Joe maybe take the time to come up with some type of schedule when you think it would be a little safer out there to fly some drones and present it to us?
Yeah, that give me a little bit more time to research some other agencies too as well, because even though the ones around here don't have anything, it's some other agencies might have something in play, and then we can probably use that as a guideline or something like that. So that'll give me some more time, because I was just approached with this, Wednesday last week, I think, Mr. Harvey. Something like Wednesday, you asked me about it, Wednesday, Tuesday, something like that.
And we could see if we're ready to take action.
Georgia recently passed a law on drones, and it's a House Bill 481 that passed, and it talks about preventing local governments for adding additional layers of regulations on top of state laws. And so that's something to look at too before we get all the way into it.
We need to look at that then, so we don't.
We don't waste our time here.
Some things, I mean, this is in one of those areas where I question, we gotta be careful how we regulate.
I'm gonna be open-minded about it, not just shut it down.
That's gonna be delivering your packages before long.
But there are a lot of areas where you can't fly.
Bring your Amazon packages to you.
You get around the airport, you better.
Oh, you better not be flying.
Okay, that will finish up that portion then, if you're gonna take care of that. And, then, item number 2, update report on the municipal court.
The only update we have is I appreciate y'all giving the judge that raise, he deserved it. We still got some other plans and stuff that we do throughout court. Some changes I want to make, as far as the safety and everything, and the court, everything as well. We still got it under control, so I don't have any further on the court.
Any questions on the municipal court?
Yeah. Next question, man. When are we gonna get court changed? That's what we need to,
I'd like to have that.
yeah, I really would like to.
Right out here.
Yeah, definitely.
If there's no more questions, we will go on to item number 3, the monthly report from Chief Lee.
You know, I should have one of your practices. I try to wait sometime until the last minute, I don't leave out nothing. You can look on the first one. Right there, I had to write in because that's what happens if I try to get these out too early. Before the end of the month, then something happens and y'all not knowing about it. So I just wrote that in today and had it up to today this morning. But the activity is picking up a lot. Tempo, I mean, we still keeping everything under control. I mean, y'all can see that the numbers have changed dramatically at the top with the call volume and everything else. But further, there's anything else. That highlighted section is just events and stuff that we like to point out that you guys know versus you hearing it from the public all the time, whether it's not in the news or it's in the news. But that's what usually when something big happen, I usually give a phone call to the mayor or Mr. Bracken or Mr. Osborne, let them know what's going on, something that we need to let all you guys know.
We appreciate that.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
And it may be a crazy question, but I don't know. What is the difference in dispatch calls and officer initiated calls?
Okay, an officer initiated call is when I'm patrolling down the road and I see something happen and I decide I saw like a drug deal that's initiated. You wouldn't dispatch to it. Or you help a motorist that's broke down that you wouldn't dispatch to or something like that. And quite natural dispatch calls is when we call that dispatcher call officer. And that can happen by two. Sometimes they can pick that phone up and that dispatcher officer still. But we got it, it's another line of block on here for walk-ins. And if you look back maybe 3 months ago, on back when I started bringing y'all this monthly reports, we wouldn't put walk-ins on, but I thought about it. Walk-ins, we get so many walk-ins a day, it's still not included. This is the walk-ins on here is walk-ins that we deal when a person comes in and need an officer, then we have to call from the officer. Charlotte Region have to call some officer to the PD, but technically walk-ins alone is a couple of hundred. Oh my gosh, yes. It's a lot. At times, yeah, we get a lot of.
What are lookouts?
Lookouts is basically when the dispatcher tells all officers in the remaining in the local areas, all of the departments that, hey, we got a missing elderly man that's got dementia or a missing child or somebody that's shoplifting, driving this across the DUI or something like that. And that lookout can spread anywhere from just Temple and Carroll County to Douglas to Coweta to however big the officer really wants to give it out. Then they can give a lookout over the whole state, basically.
Well, the reason I was asking that, Craig, is I was pretty sure I understood that, but I just wanted to make a comment that, you know, that's 130-something more things that y'all found out just out around that
Yes,
you
ma'am.
are out moving.
Yes, ma'am.
That was basically the reason I was asking that, just to make sure that,
Yes,
you know,
ma'am.
people knew you were out moving and you were making those, you know,
Yes.
observations. Okay,
Exactly.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Any questions on the highlighted areas? You know, you get a lot of people complaining about some of the traffic stops, but remember this, 3 things is that with us doing traffic stops is cut down on the fatalities, number 1. Number 2 is, that's how we catch most of our criminals traffic stops. Because it's rare you never just catch somebody red-handed. So usually we get a traffic stop when you find some stolen stuff in the car, they hide on something, or either you get a lookout for somebody that committed a crime and you have to stop the car that they driving in. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So it's really important. But these officers are stopping cars not just to get tickets out. Right. We find out a lot of things from getting vehicles stopped. We've recovered people that had dementia and was driving from other states coming through here, and they seem suspicious, but we stop them here and check them out, find out that they want it from another state, there's dementia, hold them, or whatever, you know, so it's very, very important. So when you see these traffic stops, like all these drugs and stuff, we find that all those on traffic stops.
Yeah, well, like y'all say, it's working busy. Okay, anything else? If not, we will go on to item number 4, monthly report from the code enforcement officer. Mr. Scouter, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
And if you, in your tabs, if you would, when you're looking back from where we were on the big tab, and then we went to, develop the code and future land use map, and then the next one should be code enforcement report.
Right there. There it is.
Well, due to the fact that I'm doing public works and codes, I've been focusing more on the public works. There's been a lot more going on in that area, so. But we did manage to close a couple cases, 143 Madison Avenue. We got them to get all their accumulated cars out. We're working on the last phase now, of having them stop park along the side of the road. So, and I talked to the gentleman. He's all on board with that, so that should be the end of that problem. So we shouldn't have to worry about that anymore.
I will say that looks a whole lot better.
It does, doesn't it? And then, as far as fog permits, we're up to, in fact, I had 16, another one came in today, that makes 17 out of 24 that we're supposed to have, so. At the end of this month, starting in March, I'll start sending out the late letters saying the bad things that, you know, if you don't comply, we'll shut off your water, things like that.
So you're only missing like 7 reports.
Right. On residential code enforcement, we had a lot of soil and erosion due to the rains. I guess if you've been through the subdivisions lately where they're building, you see a lot of mud on the road. We've been issuing stop work orders and making them clean up the road before we let them open and start working again, and that's been working real well. So they've been staying up on it. Let's see. Alcohol pouring license, we had an issue with El Capitillos, that people didn't have their license, but they have them now, so that's taken care of as well. Upcoming things that we're working on, this is part of Public Works too, is a fire hydrant repair. I got letters from county saying we have to repair the 4 hydrants that are not currently working. They did an inspection, and apparently this was coming back from last year as well. And then we have 2 fire hydrants that have been hit by cars that we have to repair, and from the looks of things, it's gonna cost about $750 to $1,000 a fire hydrant to get them repaired.
Who inspected?
It's county fire marshal. I have an email if you need to see it in pictures. And then the other one is, of course, MS4 system repairs. We've had, since all the water came out, we've had a lot of yards flooding, things like that, so we got we're addressing that, and I'll probably talk about that more in Public Works, but in March, we're gonna start going around and cleaning out the ditches that run along the side of the roads and cleaning out the culverts and making the water flow better and out to where it needs to go. Let's see, you saw the draft ordinance that we worked on here. We're still working on the wastewater and the sewer guys to break up the fog program, and still working on calibrating how much DOD and TSS they can have in their sewer system, figuring out which is the culprit. So one of the big problems we have right here is grease in our system, and we worked up a letter that we're going to put out in the water bills this time that says, please don't put grease, handy wipes, diaper wipes, all that kind of stuff that's really backing up our system. And I had a picture of it, but I don't think you guys need to see it, so we'll skip that one. Yeah, I thought I think you guys go easy on that one. So that pretty much sums it up on code enforcement.
Backing up to the code investigation, 5 new cases under, what were the 2 zoning, was that anything serious?
Oh, let's see. The ones we closed?
No, Todd said that, 2 something.
Yeah, that was ones we closed. That's one I closed. One of them was the accumulate. When you have cars in their yard, that's actually a zoning violation. Because, you know, if you look at it, they can only have if you have a 3-bedroom house, you can only have a grand total of 5 cars when you drive. If they have any more than that, you're violating the zoning ordinance or the accumulation ordinance. So I charge them with both. You know, I charge them with accumulation and zoning. That way, when they argue one way, I get them. If they argue the other way, I get them.
Okay, this is the one under the new cases.
Okay, the one under the new cases
Is
is,
top, very top.
yeah, that 2 right here. Oh, yeah, them are months to date, new cases closed. There was 2 soil and erosion, 1 accumulation, 2 zoning, and alcohol pouring license were closed.
Okay, they were closed.
Right, and then the one corner zoning I have open is another house that has a lot of cars in the yard, and that's over there near Richard, 194 Lakeview, I believe it is. So we're working on that issue right now. Is that
Well, these fire hydrants that are hit by cars, is there ever any kind of report?
Well,
I mean, from an accident and
if somebody don't physically see it,
Right.
you know, not that I know of, but we haven't had any reports. Chief,
He's got
Oh,
it.
he's running.
But that's, I figured that if they know about it, they make a report and then.
Right, but we've had no reports and, yeah, but they're pretty expensive to repair. I mean, they're not cheap.
So, but if that's in an accident, that should be in the accident report, there should be insurance paid.
But we don't, nobody's filed on it.
If they haven't filed on it.
That's what Tom was asking. But there's, according to George, he doesn't think we've had any filings where somebody
nobody-
hit our fire hydrant.
Nobody's went and told on themselves that they hit our fire hydrant.
That means that's a single car accident.
Right.
If it's done that kind of damage, looks like somebody would have reported.
And they say they hit a tree or a curb or, they're not
Yeah,
gonna
same
say they hit a
difference.
city fire hydrant.
Depends on how rough he was.
Yeah.
Or who was driving.
But our officers would write that up in the police.
If they saw it or got reported, yes, they would.
Yeah. I know a telephone pole or something like that, you knock it down, you're gonna pay for it.
You're gonna pay for
Yeah.
that.
If you're alive.
You should be if you take down one of our water hydrants.
Okay, any more questions for Mr. Scout? I guess that will wind in that portion of the public safety.
All right, thank you so much, sir. That brings us to Recreation Committee Chairperson Richard Ragnall, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, is Joe here?
Yeah.
All right, report or recommendation, take action now to solicit quotes for the prompt installation of safety fences around the detention pond in the city park. We've funded the prompt. I have been asking about that fence for 3 years, so I don't know that that's very prompt. But anyway, fencing around the detention pond in the city park, we're funding through the 2015 SPLOST program as set forth in the 2019 fiscal year capital improvement budget. Joe or Mr. Ock?
I'm going to start us off, if you'll go to the next tab, just to kind of bring you up to date, remind you that the budget that you approved for the capital for this year is a little over $1 million, and of that, $219,000 is designated as being for the recreation department. And all of that was identified as being 2015 SPLOST revenues. At your meeting the 1st of February, you did approve one project, namely a little under $14,000 for an infield groomer cart. Back in December, you know, we selected the Acosta fence, and Joe in a few minutes will bring you up to date on this, but as you know, that cost about $15,000 more than we had initially projected in terms of the cost. So what we have at this point, and you can see in your workbook, is we've got $45,000 for concession building and bathroom renovation, $60,000 for walking trail retention area upgrade, and $80,000 for parking lots upgrade. On the retention area upgrade, what we put on the agenda for the meeting was to talk a little bit about the safety fencing around the detention pond. Basically, we've had 3 or 4 contacts recently from people asking about that situation, and I think we do have money to do the work. Joe has talked with Acosta Fence just to see if they would give us an estimate so we know kind of what we're dealing with as we proceed with looking for quotes or bids on that, and he will speak to that momentarily. But if you want to move forward with the fencing project, we can put that on the agenda for your next meeting, whether it's soliciting bids or however you want to deal with it. Also, Joe will be talking to you about the next item on the agenda, which deals with other projects we're talking about, including looking at what would be necessary to complete work on the master plan of the park. The next page that I've given you as an attachment basically is from the budget, and it shows you the projects that you did approve. And you will see, kind of right there in the middle, well, the upper part related to recreation. So in terms of just looking at what we've got with the fencing, that tells you where we are. And I'm going to hand it off to Joe to make the rest of the report that will respond to questions.
I want to ask you a question before we go forward. We approved all of these projects. I thought some of these we moved to 2020.
You've got another sheet that I do not have on here on the projects you moved to 2020.
So all of these, we did, these are the ones, all of these we left in the 2019,
$219,000.
we left in there. Okay. Because I thought a couple of these had been moved to,
And,
to 20.
Joe, I remember, I didn't put the 2020, I don't remember what they were. Do you remember what they? Well, was the amphitheater one of them?
The amphitheater, I want to say air conditioning in the gym.
That's it. Yeah, that was it. Air conditioning.
And so the paving, I thought the paving of the parking lot was moved.
No.
Okay. Hey, Joe?
Well, pretty much everything that we have going on now is in process, so, up to the concession stands.
Oh, hold on just a minute. Let's finish with number one, Joe, because you're supposed to give us this is dealing with the fencing around the retention pond.
Yeah,
Did you get
I spoke with Costa, I forgot his name, Mr. Juan, I think that's his name, to get us a quote. He came back today, he measured, he said it's 1,000, around the entire pond is 1,000 feet. So I told him to get us a quote for the higher grade and the lesser grade fence, to see, where we are with the numbers. I propose to use the old fencing around the old PD department, but that's not enough. We can use it, but this would be enough to, he said he could do it, but he said it probably wouldn't be cheap.
They're willing to use the old fencing and
Yes, he
take
said
it down and
He
reinstall
said
it.
he could move what we have up there, down there, and that'll cover, some of the cost.
Oh, you take it down.
Yes, take it from where it is now.
And move it over.
Wonder how many
So we're
feet
doing
that is.
double labor.
That's probably about maybe 200, I would say.
What are you talking about over at the,
Where the PD trailers used to
The
be.
old PD.
oh,
Yeah.
finally get rid of that fencing that we're putting?
How tall is your fencing?
It's probably 7 feet.
Pretty tough.
Because you're gonna be paying double labor for that.
Yeah, you
And then
would.
I don't know what's the difference in the price of
Of something.
regular fence and the newer fence.
You gotta have gates on it too to get into
Okay.
trim and cut.
That could be expensive.
All right, so you're getting us
Yes.
the initial on that, all right?
Mr. Chairman, before you move on, since we had the fence company out there working, we wanted to go ahead and get the price. Now, Mr. Attorney, they just finished doing the job that they were doing for us, a $51,000 job. Did a good job on it, what Joe tells me. So if we wanted to use that same company and do an amendment to that contract, would we do that?
I need to see how your other contract was, whether it was really John specific or not. I mean, if you had, I would use the same one and change the figures, I would imagine.
It was specific in terms of what they were doing around the ball fields.
But you would need to adopt the new, you'd have to take action on it either way as the council. I don't know if that's what
Right,
you're
yeah,
saying.
right. So my question, I guess, was legally, could we do that? Or do we need, what they were doing was just giving us a figure that, on approximately what the cost would be. whether or not we need to go ahead. We can try to get quotes from the same people we got the quotes on before, if you want us to do that. And we try to get that done this week. So you decide that on Monday night. And that wouldn't get involved in what I was just asking you, that we just get quotes as opposed to seal bid. It would just be like we've done on some other occasions, getting a quote from them and getting a quote from the two other companies, or requesting quotes from the other companies.
It depends too on, and maybe this is part of what you're asking too, what we think the amount of that project is going to be. Because we don't have a choice but to bid it out if it's going to be 100,000.
So we're talking about probably less than 10.
Do you remember what they charged us per foot on the last one?
What was the question?
Per foot on the last one?
It's hard to say, they did this per foot, but there were so many variables, you know, for each field. You had the gates and what the height of the fencing was, but you've got that in your book, and from last time, we got that, so it's easy enough, any of us to look at, when you approve that contract, previous meeting.
What height are we looking at?
For the pond, I said 6 feet.
6?
But, yeah, I mean, if we're trying to deter people from climbing, then we don't really have, you know, 6 feet might be too much, maybe we can go shorter. I was just gonna wait till I got the quote from them.
Yes.
I got a larger question. Since it's a priority in a matter of public safety, can it be considered an emergency? And not have to bid it?
Well, I don't know that you have to, if it's going to be as inexpensive as we think, I don't know that you have to bid it.
It's over 2,500, you're supposed to bid it, right?
75.
7,500.
But if it's less than that, we can just do, could we just do an amendment to the contract if we let the same company do it? If it's less than our amount we have to bid out?
It's probably better to have a new contract.
This is the, you know, when we were doing the fencing around, there were companies in Temple that actually did the fencing. So there was a real concentrated effort to get quotes within the city limits. I think there were 2, right, Joe? And in the end, we only had this one fence company to give us quotes on that fence. But probably it's going to cost more than $7,500.
Yeah.
The bad thing is, it's probably going to be more if they pack everything up and go to another job and then come back to this job. So bidding it out with the chance that, you know, you could, those other companies could come back in and bid that. But I guess that's just a chance where you have to take it.
Yeah, I mean, you never, definitely safer about bidding it.
So bid it.
Can we get to just bid it, get quotes?
And if I can see, if y'all can send me the contract, it helps.
You got it, y'all do it.
Okay.
It's, first one, I use that as the boilerplate.
Okay.
And so this one, other than, probably about the only thing would be changing on the contract, whoever gets it from that one would be, would describe specifically where the fencing would go, what type of fencing would cost, the rest of it would be the same.
Then why don't I look at it when I get back to the office tomorrow and let y'all know whether or not.
So Costa Fence Company, I'm not sure how y'all got it, because we, I think we filled in Costa Fence, but it was a boilerplate y'all gave us to use on all of our similar type contracts.
Okay.
All right, status, any other questions on that?
I would like to see it on the agenda for Monday if we can possibly do it.
Well, that goes to reason. All right. Status report on other planned capital improvement projects in City Park, both those which are currently both those which currently are under construction and those which are included in the 2019 fiscal year capital improvement budget, but have not yet been approved by the Temple City Council and Mayor for implementation on a tentative future project which constitutes the remainder of the proposed master plan for the city park. Joe, what does that mean?
That means that everything up to, let's see, we have the airfield groomer is in process. We should have that here soon. I'm meeting with 2 landscaping companies for the walking trail improvement this week. And also meeting with the pavement company for the parking lot upgrade. And I'm also going tomorrow for the cabinets to put in the soccer concession that we had to bring out. So it's just a lot of things in process right now.
What was the status of getting one of those restrooms as weatherproofing and as vandal-proofing as possible so it could be left open?
Well,
What happened to that?
The two actual guys that came out said the best thing to do is tear it down and rebuild it because.
The concession stand?
No, the bathrooms. The bathrooms where we have the walls that you can just pretty much go in there and hammer down or pull down, or the doors. They said if it was concrete like the recreation bathrooms in the gym where you can't just go in there and destroy it.
Yeah, but that was what we were talking about.
Yes.
And there's no way to have a completely vandal-proof period. I mean, that doesn't exist. But there are a lot of things that could be done to make it where it's much more difficult.
Yes, and that's what concrete. So the guy that's coming out this week, he said.
You're getting that.
It's all in the works.
And is there a way to keep it warm so that the pipes are not bursting and all that stuff? No kind of heating system to put in there that would work to do that?
I don't think so. I mean, something that I would trust in there with kids in there. I don't know.
But they had a center part in it that they couldn't get to, right? In between those restrooms, wasn't there a walk-in?
It's a walk-in,
That
area.
had all of the plumbing coming into that,
Yes.
right? So there's no way to,
We can put, if you saying putting a heater in there,
well, I don't know, I'm just saying, some way to keep it so that we have a restroom available for people, anytime that park is open.
we can do it. As far as keeping that area, that middle area open, we keep supplies and every kind of, all kind of other things in there. So we're talking about putting like the actual heater or furnace,
I don't know, it's your department, I'm just asking, is there a way to do it? Because that was a part of what we had requested, was to have restrooms that we can keep open.
The restrooms they're unlocked.
All the time?
Pretty much. After the last fiasco that we had out there, we left it open.
Have you had any problems with it?
Yeah, we
What's the problem, tearing the commodes off the wall?
had. That, the windows broken, drug pipes, things of that nature.
What time do you close the gym bathroom?
In the afternoons, we're there until 8:30, 9 o'clock almost.
So is the gym open, every time the park is open, is the gym open?
Yes.
That solves a lot of the problems right there. But the one we were talking about, there was practice going on, and the woman was taking the child, and she had 2 little ones, and she said, is there anywhere I can use the restroom?
Was it what did we?
It was, I don't know, there was
it
practice.
Saturday or Wednesday?
No, it was during the week.
Teams practice up there all the time without.
Or so when the teams are practicing, is the gym open?
Yes. If there's a scheduled practice. What I'm saying is you have teams that come up there to practice on a day that we may not be there. So then the gym wouldn't be open then.
And there's no place for them to have a restroom?
The concession stand bathroom. But she would have to walk from the pavilion to one of the
Gotcha.
concessions.
But it doesn't matter as long as there's one open.
Yes.
You don't leave them all open, do you?
Yes, we do.
24 hours?
Except the soccer one, because that one, the pipe stand was busted up there. But the softball one and the Milner Street one is open.
It's open 24 hours a day.
I got a question. So we had pipes that burst in the soccer restrooms. What have we done to prevent that from happening again?
We fixed them and we, yes.
And more insulation on them? That also happened on the concession stand, didn't it?
Yes, it happened on both sides.
Yeah, that was the same building, okay.
That's two separate buildings, or is it?
No, it's the
No, it's connected to them. We walked in there. and-
Yeah, that's the one we were looking at, when we were trying to figure out the way to insulate them and do something to keep them from. So the question on this is though, so you're just giving us an update on these projects?
Yes, of course, we know where I am.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the press box,
West Fox, I spoke to him the other day, and he said he could, he's done all he could based on the weather. That was his response.
He started it.
Yeah, I mean, the pad is laid, and he ran the conduit, you know, for electricity and everything, but it's been a while for him to do, I think it should be right now.
Sure, absolutely.
A couple of red questions on that. The lights at the soccer field, do you leave those on at night when the gates are all locked up? Because I've been by there.
At what's up,
Yeah, the upper soccer field, the big.
those lights
big
don't, those lights don't go on. Those, you mean on the parking lot up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, those stay
Oh,
on.
they stay on.
Yes. That's Georgia Power, that's not gonna.
One more question. Are we going to get some, at the new playground, notice you got the benches and the
Yes.
tables, look very good. Good job.
Appreciate it.
Are we gonna get some lights in there?
Your lights and shading,
Oh, good.
because you know, once the sun come out,
That was my next question. What kind of shading?
well, those tables come with the, you know, the umbrella
Umbrella.
poles. So we'll get those.
Okay, good.
Was that a part of the original plan? Or is that something additional?
No, that's something additional. But we have, we have to find
That you're working on already, that's very good.
Any other questions?
I had a lot of good comments about that playground area.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Opposed to light? All right. Brief staff report concerning possible activities in the center city park during Easter weekend, Friday through Sunday.
We left that open for the mayor. He said he wanted that weekend.
We have, the Verve Church is planning a Easter egg hunt and other activities, and they have requested if the city would be obliged to allow them to use the rec department property to hold this event. And so that's what that's about. It would be on the Saturday before Easter, I understand about 2 o'clock until, I'm not sure what time it would end. But I think the start time was 2 o'clock. So, that's just for y'all to discuss your willingness to allow that to happen.
Are they willing to fund everything and?
You mean like the permit use or?
Well, I'm talking about, buying everything.
Oh, yes.
The only thing we're responsible for is just providing the place.
Is that what that, where it's just as, the idea is because it's a community event that we would provide the
But it's not a
facility.
community event, it's a Verve Church.
No, well, it's a community event from the standpoint that it's open to anyone who wants to come.
But it's sponsored by
It's
the
they're organizing it, et cetera.
Okay, but is our events committee gonna have any participation or any?
No. We discussed that, and from the standpoint of, it's not our event, it's their event. So if any member of the community wants to participate in the event or to help with, manpower, then that's their individual choice. But no, the events committee is not participating as providing manpower or organizational input or whatever. When it was brought to us, it was our discussion that it was just one of those deals where, separation things had to be observed. And so if we provide the facility, it's not a limited event, it's open to all who wish to come and bring their children, bring themselves, et cetera, et cetera. It's just up to y'all whether or not we want to give them the facility to do it.
Okay, they're gonna provide all the cleanup, our rec department wouldn't have to do the cleanup or anything?
Right.
I got a question. Did they not do that last year? But it was at
They
a
had
different
it,
location?
they had it last year, but it was at Providence Elementary.
But
It
they
was on
did
the
an
middle
excellent
school
job.
football field.
And they're essentially looking for a bigger space.
Right.
Well, and last year they did the scissor lift, and they did them all on one field, which was awesome, except you had little kids that didn't get done in time to start the other one, so they kept delaying. Plus the scissor lift, you know, it didn't go as what they thought. So there was a lot of eggs out there and a lot of crushing going on. But it was lifted in one place, where this way they can separate it, which makes it so much nicer for the little kids.
So, is
They
there
also, well, the other advantage too, I think, is the availability of restrooms.
Exactly.
and so there are no rec activities going on?
No, and I also put in, you know, to the league to black out those days for us so that we don't have the game.
Yeah. So move it to the agenda to vote on. Okay, anything else, Joe? Any other questions? All right. Number 4 says staff report on the operation of concession stands and ticket operations in the city park by Ken Abidad.
If you go over to your next tab, you should find, everybody should have a report on recreation department revenue collection process. If you don't have that, everybody have that? I said, yeah.
Looks like that.
Count 12 times, go all the way down and come back up to the 12.
See, Mr. Mayor, what's? Where's your-
Well, y'all need to
what's
put
that?
through the tabs.
This is future city clerk,
It should be the next.
city table audits.
Let's see, audit,
Yeah.
You should be before the audit.
Might be this, might be
Mine
this.
doesn't also.
Oh, we got a couple of minutes.
Okay, if anybody doesn't have one, let's see if I got, copy here on that, Kristen, do you, have any of those over there? If we just got one, that's fine, then we'll give them there.
I didn't read it.
Okay, do we,
Anybody else? Anybody else?
everybody's missing it.
I'm not missing it, I've got it.
You got it, Holly doesn't have it.
Just right before,
Oh, yours just won't see.
Right before the audit.
okay.
Okay. Everybody have one now?
Yeah.
I, following the request of council members, I went there on the 2nd through 7th during the basketball tournament and just observed how their revenue collection system. And I found out that they're using a touch screen system. Tickets were not used. They didn't issue tickets at the entrance. Once they collect the gate fee, he keys in the amount into the system, and the amount automatically generates a head count for everybody that's going to the arena. That was how they are collecting the admittance fee from the spectators. And at the end of the day, the amount collected is compared to the head count. That is also generated by the system. Once you key in an amount, it counts because the first day I went, I think admittance fee was $2. So once you key in $2, it counts one person. If you key in $6, it counts 3, just like that. So at the end of the day, the head count is compared to the amount of money collected. And well, the overage came about because at some point in time, there were quite a few people trying to get into the arena. And there was only one person with one monitor keying in the amount collected. And I think he may have missed one or two.
people going in and forgot to key in. That was with the admittance fee. But with the concession, the overage came about because during halftime, there were a lot of people at the concession stand trying to get refreshment before the commencement of the second half of the game. And there were 3 people in there, the concession stand manager and 2 assistants. And also the crowd there was, while I was there were a lot of people trying to get refreshment. And just 3 of them, the procedure there was they collect the money, each person collects the money, go into the cash drawer and make change for the person. There was no, they were just going round like that, making check, collecting cash, issuing passing over the refreshment and making change. So the process was not the best to my observation. It could be better. And during the rush period, they forgot to key in the amount collected from a few people. So that was why the overage for the recreation stand, like the highest was $30.50. That to me is really high. Because if you don't have people that you can trust, someone can easily make away with some money. But if the overage is that high, while I was there, nobody tried to line their pockets or anything like that. To my observation, I didn't see that. And these are kids from Temple High, and I think they worked diligently while I was there. And at the end of the day, the head of department and one of the full-time employees there, I can't remember his name, and the manager of the concession stand and the young man that manned the admission stand, they all sat together and compared the amount collected, the head count, and the inventory of the concession stand. Once they tally the total amount, the head of department put the amount in the logbox at the back of the concession stand. I never went in there, but that's where, at the end of the day, that's where the money is.
So how did you get these figures of overages? If you didn't do the countdown, right?
No, I didn't do that. I just
did.
observed it. When the papers were turned over, I saw the overages and I contacted the head of recreation about it.
Okay, so they supplied that to you,
Right.
overage figures.
Yes.
Questions?
It's a lot better to be over than short.
But could we be short just as easy as we're over?
Yeah, it can happen, but that is just my opinion. It could happen if somebody decides to be smart about it.
That's not really good checks and balances.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not.
If you count your inventory before you start, and you count your inventory when you leave, that's
Yeah.
pretty accurate.
Yeah,
You got
it should
10
be
candy
accurate.
bars, and you sold 10 candy bars.
It's accurate. It should be accurate, but when you're keying in the amount during rush time, if you're keying in the amount.
That's the reason I
it is
said,
possible.
a better one be, know how much you start with,
Right.
know how much you end with, and that's how much you should have.
Yes.
And based on that, you figure you're over an outage, then you don't have to worry about the rush. And 3 people operating out of the same cash, you're
No,
on.
you have to worry about the rush, the overage, because you're keying in the amount into a system, and at the end of the day, the system generates how much you have keyed in. If the amount you have keyed in does not tally with the cash at hand, then in accounting standard, it's a problem. You should try to look into that and at least mitigate that as much as possible. Nobody is accusing anybody.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but that would be a proper procedure to be in place.
So a key-in system is better than an inventory system.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think I was at Woodward that 2 weekends ago, and they used the keyboard and the soft screen system, the touch screen system, and tickets. You know, they issue you a ticket and still key in the amount you paid, and you have to key the store to go into the, when you're walking in, there's somebody at the entrance that calls the ticket into 2 and gives you a store of the ticket. Like that, and they keep half as well. I assume that they compare what they have, the ticket, the part of the ticket they have with what they keyed into the touchscreen system.
So they get both there.
Yeah, they have both.
And then they match the stub with
Right.
what's on the computer.
Yes, sir. But we're not doing that here. But the admittance fee, I think the overage was just $6. And plus or minus that is accepted.
So you're not recommending doing it a different way? Or are you going to recommend it a different way?
Should I recommend
You're a finance guy. If you're comfortable with it, you say you're comfortable with it,
no,
then I'm going to be comfortable with it. But if you're not, if you're not, then I'm not going to.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with the fact that for the concession stand, the overage is over $30. And if you look at we have $6 for the February 4th, $21, 5th and 7th, $30.50. I think anything over $10, to my opinion, is on the high side.
I mean, is it difficult? Well, you're not the correct person. But it looks to me like if you knew how many boxes of candy you had, this is how many boxes of candy we start out with. This is how many cups we start out with. This is how many bags we start out with. So that at the end, you just count the number of cups, you count the number of bags, you count the number of candy bars, and you subtract it from what you start with, and that's what you should have.
Right.
Which is not, then you don't have to worry about the rush that happens and keying it in. It would just be there. That, to me, that's just a decent way to do that. Then the keying in of the tickets, I don't guess that's any big deal, but there's always going to be, because it's going to be at the halftime when you have the rush.
Yes.
But, if you're comfortable with it, if you're not comfortable with it, make a proposal.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And I think what we're talking with finance director, that when you got the rush like he's described, you're trying to fill your orders. So the thing that gets left out of the process is doing the keying in.
Right.
Now, if the mayor and council on the one hand and the finance director, the park director on the other, decide that we don't need to key the stuff in, that will speed up the process, but you're not getting that record in terms of your sales. It does get you what you're talking about, if you know how many you got to start, how many you got at the end, how much money you took in. If that's the only thing you're looking for, that might work, but I think before you reach that conclusion, we would need to be sure that all of you are comfortable with ongoing information that we're getting at this time through the input into the equipment.
Well, the issue that I have with that is if we're spending 3 times more money on concession than we're taking in, we have an issue. So we do need to have that inventory, in my opinion, because that's really the only way to have an accuracy. I could care less if you key it in. If the money's there when you start, the money's there when you finish, I ain't worried about who bought it. So, I mean, I guess the concession, if that's the issue, then the concession, if we start an inventory on Monday, the end of the day would be you're starting on the next day, so you really only have to do it at the end of the day when you started, and to reapply. And then, like Richard's saying, that should be where your money matches. Now, if you're doing things like you're giving the officials free Gatorade, or you're feeding them free, then yeah, somebody's got to keep up with that, because that's going to come out of the, the end of the balance.
You know what I mean, keep up, if you got 100 cups there, and you have 90 cups, that means you sold 10, you're $1 piece, that's $10. In candy bars, it's something different. It just seems like, I mean, I don't want to create a nightmare for anybody, but anyway, maybe that's something we need to put back on the agenda after we've all had a chance to bring it back to the rec department, and we've had a chance to ponder that one. Okay.
Is it different people working the concessions every time, or pretty much the same people, or
We have a manager and 2 assistants.
is it the same people? It's pretty much all of them.
I guess they're part-time people that work there.
But it's different ones.
Yeah.
Hey, any other questions? We'll table that and give us a chance to think about it. Put it back on the committee for next month. All right. Any questions about the rec department or rec that anyone has? If not, it's your turn.
All right, thank you, sir. Budget and Finance Committee, chaired by Councilmember Terry Bivens.
Yes, sir. So the first thing on the agenda is the status report of our completion of the 2017 audit by the firm of Warren Averett. Mr. Osborne.
All of you, if you go to your next tab, you should have a 1-page on that. If you don't, we've got some extra copies here. Does anybody need the 1-page memo on? Anybody does, but basically, and I'm gonna make a few comments, and our finance director also. We still are working to finish this up with Warren Everett, CPA firm. It appears we've got only a few tasks to complete, but if you look back over the last few months, we thought we had only a few tasks to complete, and then it just kind of continues. And we still are working on it. Not long ago, the person we worked with most closely, Robin Denson, she wanted to focus on the SPLOSH, and we've done that with GDOT. We've tried to do everything that she has told us that she needed. I think, tell you probably a few weeks ago that she said that they expected to be ready to meet, sit down and talk with us in the middle of February. Obviously, that wasn't the case. We had a telephone meeting with her late Thursday afternoon. We felt we answered all of the questions. That was the last thing she was needing. And when we got through, she said, well, she appreciated that, but there may be a few other questions based on what we just reported to her. So, you know, the high priority we've got with this is that the longer this thing drags on, the more questions we're going to have from the state as to why our audit's taking so long. And until the audit has been completed, we cannot provide a finished copy to the Carroll County Water Authority, so they can't review it and decide what their feelings are on the refinancing of our bond and indebtedness. All of us know that the one thing we had been told by our bond counsel, Bill Camp, as well as the bond counsel with the Water Authority, is that this is a good time to look at doing the refinancing. You don't know what interest rates are going to be. So that's where we are. Ken may have something to add, and then before we finish this subject, I do want to come back, because we're talking about 2017 audit. I want to talk briefly on the 2018 audit, with questions that, comments you have before we start, Ken?
Yes, sir. It's really frustrating, and right now I'm even hesitant asking for updates, because each time I've requested for an update, she will have something to the request. Usually we furnish her with any paperwork or information she has requested within hours or by the next day. We've always done that, but each time we ask for an update, she will come up with something. She needs this, she needs that, and it's really frustrating. It's like I told Mr. Osborne a while ago, I think she's stalling. I don't believe she's done any work on the audit at all. She's stalling.
Mr. Brightman?
Are we not beginning to get into some kind of contract, breach of contract?
We paid them over $20,000.
$28,000.
Yes, to come in here and get what they needed and work at this table right here.
When they started on the audit?
Oh, right. I think it was June or July of last year. There was a separate contract
Yes.
drawn. She came in here and was paid about $5,000, a little over $5,000, to do what all this, the information she's now requesting for, she should have had way back in June of 2018.
It sounds to me like
Right.
we're
When she
close
was
to
here.
breach of contract.
So
Why don't y'all, can you send me the contact
The-
information for the person?
yeah.
Just email it to me. I mean, if you think it'll help me in discussion with them.
You know, the dilemma that I think we're in, because we've got to be close to being finished, or you would think we would be. We are delinquent in terms of getting it to the state. Even if they are in breach of contract, if we ended up having to, and we got even some damages, you still got to get through with the audit and get it to the state. And if we're so close, you figure that, but it seems like the finish line keeps moving on us. And I cannot tell you tonight what else needs to be done. And one thing we can do, again, I hadn't talked about this, but we know the time comes when they sit down and talk with us. Maybe we should just say, you know, we need to have that meeting. And even if there's some loose ends, it's time for Rodman, for your supervisor, Billy Minch, and you to come and meet with the mayor and council. And so that if there's problems that we've got, regardless of who's causing them, let's put them out on the table.
Yeah, but the issue with that then becomes, this is the same conversations we've had. We're now fixing to be March this Friday. This is the same conversation we had in January, not to rock the boat. Now we've had it 3 more times, not to rock the boat, and we're in February, and it may be April at this point. And we aren't going, well, I mean, the state could give us a nice little hefty fine, and it's sure not gonna come out of their pocket.
It should.
Well, in the time storage, it ain't gonna say Temple got fined because their auditor didn't do her job. They're gonna say they got fined because they weren't in compliance.
Now, I will say that, you know, the last paragraph I got on here that looking, we have already approved I recommended it, and you approved it, to use them again. I don't see us doing that.
No, that ain't gonna happen.
But before we, say that, Mr. Attorney, that we want to terminate that contract, it has not been started, we've just selected them. Is that, I'd sure like to get,
I think that has been signed. For
the
engaging
work
them
has
for
been
the
done.
2018 audit. I think that document, the terms of engagement was signed.
yeah, you're right, but no work has been done.
Yes, sir, no. We have to finish 2017 before we can commence on 2018.
And we're getting close to where we should be starting on
Exactly.
2018.
Absolutely.
We need to start it on time this year and not have an extension.
We
started it on
We started sometime last
Where
year.
we are.
I think it's time we need to put fire.
So all we can do is just wait at this point.
I'm not saying that's the only thing we do. I do think that whether we need to get the attorneys involved,
Bring us what you got.
Yes.
Show us what you got. Bring it out here and put it on this table. Prove to us that you are doing something and that you're not just stonewalling while you do something else. If they're asking for something and then asking for something to explain that something and then something to explain that, they're stonewalling. That is not sound business on any level. And that's the reason I say it's time to bring the attorneys in. I mean, we're gonna have, we're gonna deal with this fact that we're late on our audit. And we don't wanna be late on our audit because that's an important thing. But we can't, I don't know how else you do it. If you're calling every day and you're giving some lame excuse every day, at some point in time, that should be a reputable company, and they should have liability for what they're doing.
Well, I mean, I don't mind having a conversation with them, just as kind of another party that reaches out and says, what's going on here? I mean, I think that's where you start. Because like Bill said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel when you're late.
No, absolutely not.
But I don't mind doing that at all.
But we got to have the truth as to where they are with the audit. I mean, if they're stonewalling and doing something else and doing absolutely nothing on our audit, then, that could be a bad thing.
And where did our money go? We paid.
Have you ever encountered this before?
Not with us, no.
We have this problem with our auditor. I don't know why we
I've
don't.
spoken to a few auditors as well, and it's strange to them that an audit could be a deadline, they will miss the deadline and still be nonchalant about, trying to get the job done and presenting their work.
Well, my suggestion is, go for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, y'all just put me in contact
Right.
with who this individual is, this main person you've been dealing with, and I'll reach out and we'll see where we are.
All right, any more questions about the audit or on the audit? Okay, number 2 is report on the purchase of the new computer equipment for the city hall and for the city elected officials. Kristen?
So in this year's budget, it was approved to purchase computers for City Hall. All the computers here are fairly old and really everything needs to be updated. We've been getting some prices from different places. And just to report to you that right now it's looking like Staples is going to be our best bet. We spoke with the general manager there and he worked up a really good deal for us. What we're planning on purchasing, as y'all know, is as you requested, Chromebooks for all of the council and the mayor. And for all of the staff at City Hall, that's going to include 7 new computers and 10 new monitors because some employees need to have 2 monitors to do their work. And also this will include the Office suite that we need to have Excel and Word and all of those programs. So the total for everything is going to be $7,500. $6,126 will come out of the administration budget, and then $1,374 for the Chromebooks would come out of the governing body. So that's all in our budget. We've looked at other places, Best Buy. Cindy has talked to our contact person at Quill, who we do a lot of purchasing from. They have yet to get back with us, but from what we found so far, this is definitely the best and most affordable. It meets all the specs that we were looking for, half a terabyte, 12 gigabytes, an iPad processor at minimum. So this should update all of us to where we need to be with our computer technology. And I'm also hoping with the Chromebooks that we have for y'all. I know this morning before the meeting, we were talking about Stephen's not getting her book because she had something come up. My hope is if we're gonna have Chromebooks for everybody, that we can also have the Google Drive where I can upload everything to the drive where we have file sharing, maybe cut back on some of the paper. I know we still need to have the books, but my hope is some of these last minute things that we do, once we have them done, I can go ahead and put them on that drive. It'll be a shared drive. Then you'll have access to them over the weekend or prior to the meeting instead of getting some of this on the day of the meeting. So that's really my big hope for the Chromebooks. I hope that everyone is on board with that because I'm all for saving some trees and also getting the information out to you as quickly as possible. And I know y'all have busy schedules and you can't always make it up here, so that's my true hope is we can all get on board with that and kind of make everything easier for all of us. Also, you care to bring your equipment to the meetings, and make it easier sometimes, and I can set it up where everything's easy to find on there, and you can just click on whatever document instead of having to sort through the papers. That's just my hope.
Yes.
So,
Are we going to have dedicated servers to handle?
for the Chromebooks,
Yeah.
not that I know of, I will be checking on that once we get our IT set up. I'm not aware of that. I'm not
Because nothing's saved to the Chromebook. It's saved
Correct.
to the.
You can't save anything, but with the Google Drive, we should be able to save everything on that. And access it. So, we're trying to get that set up. Yes,
Do
sir.
we have people that are qualified to do the installation? Or do we get an IT person, or
Our IT person should be able to assist us with that.
which is the one that we have problems with?
Well, I think I'm
We'll
reporting
talk
on
about
that
that.
part, yes. But my hope and vision for all of that also is to do all of this at one time once we have someone else in place.
Okay.
So it'll all be part of the process. So yes.
That sounds better.
Does anyone have any questions?
Mr. Nobley, so is Monday night's meeting gonna be too early to try to take action on this?
I don't know if there's action we need to take. The cost is not going to be over $7,500. So the part for the administration is $6,000. So, I mean, I guess y'all might need to vote to approve that we even do this, but as far as, but yes, sir. I mean, I have the right up here, and if you'd like, I can give you information on the other computers we
I
looked
think
at that
you
were more
got quotes
expensive.
that I feel we're comfortable with that kind of size purchase to take action selecting who we're getting or, now, when we actually, consummate that, as you say, do it all together, but we could get that part out of the way Monday night if you're already.
Well, and let me just tell you too, that in our SPOSH budget, there is a line for administration for us to buy these out of that 2015 SPOSH also. So we could leave that other money in there, just in case we decide to go ahead and do our expansion here, that we could use that administrative money for doing those computer moves or whatever when we do the expansion here. So there is a line, we could take that out of 2015 SPOSH. Any more questions? All right, Ms. Kristen, updated reports on development and activation of the City of Temple's website on computer technical assistance to the city departments.
I'll start with the website first. I'm a little frustrated with that, kind of like we're frustrated with our situation with our accounting, whatever firm right now, I can't think. I'm having a call Wednesday at 2 o'clock, a conference call with my contact person at Unitary, so I'm here to have more of a date then. The last I heard from him was this morning via email when I was trying to get an update. And he apologized. He said he thought he'd gotten back with me, and he realized his email never got sent. I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like I've gotten a little bit of a runaround. But I am having a conference call with him Wednesday at 2. So I'll have more of an update then, and I can email you all with what's going on, but I told him we do need a concrete deadline when this is gonna be done. He said in the email it's in creation mode right now, so they're still working on it. But the last time I spoke to him, which was about 2 weeks ago, he told me we were at about a 6-week time frame. So right now I'm not sure, that would be about 4 weeks, 3 weeks at this point. So I'll try to have more details, or I should have more details on Wednesday after 2. The other part of this item was related to IT assistance for the city. We have had different departments and different staff members who have had some complaints with our current IT person or IT company. We haven't always been getting the assistance we need, either whether it be in a timely manner or a professional manner. And there's just some issues we've had going on with that. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I'm not trying to talk down or badly about anyone. But we are looking for a switch for that. What I initially did to try to get some ideas of who we could use for an IT person, you would think it would be easy, and there's a lot of technical help out there, which there is. But being a municipality, it's a bit more specific. They have to be GCI certified. There's different things that they have to know. So honestly, there aren't as many options out there as I would have thought. But I started with calling different cities around the area to see who they used, if they were happy with them, to find out what kind of recommendations I could get. And I have gotten 2 recommendations, 2 different people. Again, I'm not going to mention any names at this point. 2 different people and companies, and we did meet with both of them in the past week. Cindy and I, along with several members of the police department and Chief Lee, there are about 6 of us that got together and spoke with them to let them know the needs that we have at City Hall and the needs at the police department, because the other departments use them as well. These 2 departments definitely have the most IT needs and assistant needs. So we spoke to 2 different people, and we really liked both of them. The first person, when we met with him, we were very impressed and thought we definitely want to go with this person. Then we met with the second person, we liked them even more. So I feel like we have 2 good options. So right now it's really going to come down to, I guess, what y'all decide, and also cost. I had hoped by today to have 2 quotes from each one of them. I asked them to get it to me by today, and they both said they would. But I only received a quote from one of them so far, but the other one I spoke to on the phone Friday, and he gave me an idea of what the cost would be. So I hope by Monday to have actual quotes for both of them, but just to give you an idea of what we're looking at as far as cost. The first one, he said, neither one of them want to do it by per job charge. They want to have a monthly fee that they charge us. That's not what we're doing right now with the company we have right now. It's per use. Every phone call we make, we get a charge. Every time they have to come out here, we get a charge. But both of these companies want to have just a set rate. They don't want to deal with a bunch of invoices. The first company, what he told me on the phone on Friday was that for the first 6 months, he was planning on charging $1,200. And it was this high because he feels like during the first 6 months, he's going to have to spend a lot of time up here. He's already looked at the servers at City Hall and over at the police department. There's some updates we need to do with that, and there's just different things they're going to have to get worked out. So he feels like the first 6 months is really to get us all in good shape and get us to where we need to be. So he's going to be spending more time with us, either on the phone or in person, to get things where they need to be. After that, he feels like we won't need him as much. He said that a good IT person, you don't have to see him very much because he leaves you in good hands and everything's how it needs to be. So after the first 6 months, he said it would be $600 a month. I hope I'm remembering this correctly. This is the one he hasn't given me the written quote yet. So first 6 months, $1,200. After that, $600 per month. The second person that we met with, he just sent me his quote today, and his cost is going to be $800 per month. And he kind of based that on, we have approximately 40 employees in the city. We only have 30-something full-time, but there's a few part-time. Basically, he said that's about a $20 charge per employee per month, which equals $800, just to kind of cover all of us for anything that we need. He did say if we feel like this is out of our reach, the $800 amount, that he might be able to look at doing the per charge thing with us if we want to do that instead. But he's proposing $800 a month. So again, on Monday, I hope to have both of their written proposals. I only have one of them right now, and then I hope that it can be on the agenda for Monday. We can vote on this. And as I was talking about purchasing the computers, if that could be on there as well. And my hope is that we can get this new person in here and start it at the same time we get the new computer equipment. We could go ahead and purchase it and have it here, but actually have them available to install it for us because they both said that they could set up.
Go to Gmail.
I did mention Gmail with both of them, that was a priority, and both of them are on board with helping us in any way they can to do that. I do know in that conversation, I don't know if Chief Lee is still here, but I know they had some concerns that the police department was switching over to Gmail because of, we've had Outlook, I guess, forever, and they just have some concerns. So that's something we need to consider as well. We need to make sure everyone's on the same page, and if we do switch over, that we don't lose anything or any emails that we have, and whatever other concerns Chief Lee has, we need to take that into consideration.
On average, what do we spend with it, what do we use currently?
That's a great question, and that's something that we had Cindy pull the records for that, because the gentleman that we spoke to were also curious, what the cities spend, and I don't have the exact amounts, I'm sorry, she wasn't here today, I was gonna get those from her. But if I recall correctly, and this is gonna sound really low, but there's a reason for that, I believe last year, the amount was about $3,800.
For the year?
For the year.
But they didn't do anything.
Exactly, it was a very low amount, and this is just from what I've heard from other people, some people just stopped calling for help, or there are a lot of things, I guess, that we need to get updated and have it, I'm not really sure, but we didn't use the person as much as we probably needed to, so I was kind of shocked when I heard that figure versus what these people are requesting that we pay them, but, I guess you get what you paid for, and it just, yeah.
Any more questions?
One other. Is it, well, never mind, because we all need to be on the same email, on the same email.
I have a question for you, Richard, because you were in Bob's Temple website thing. Should all of our websites, and I know we talked about this last year, and it was like, well, the new website's gonna be here, so there's no need to do updates. But should we go ahead and update all our websites? Because, it's been 6 months, there's been no updates.
And I agree wholeheartedly, because we thought 3 months
Right.
ago. But if this is on the verge of truly coming in, it would be a tremendous amount of work that doesn't need to be done. Because when this comes on, it's basically like everybody's going to have their page, and they're going to have to go in and build, their schedules and this and the other. Also, the forms are coming in, and all of that's coming in with this. And that may be what took so long.
Right. I should know more, I guess, Wednesday afternoon where we are with everything to see if it's worth it to try to update. And then basically we've just been updating that front page where I can add agendas and that sort of thing. I don't think much else has been done because I don't have access to change anything on there. That's been another problem.
I got another question, especially with our Facebook page. Is the access to the Facebook page who has access to our page that can post on our page?
I have access to it. I usually do all the updates on there, but Cindy has access as well as a backup.
Is there a way to create a mayor's page within that Facebook page? So that when we have, like we had go down, this weekend, and we need information on boil water, we need all that, and we need our mayor have quick access so that he can, if he gets up in the middle of the night and finds out there's a water leak, there's a water leak, we're working on it.
Right, and that's definitely one thing, I think I mentioned Mr. Osborne, once we do have a new public works director in place, I would like them to have access to the page, because a lot of times Public Works is communicating with me different leaks and things that are going on. That way that person, they know right when it happens and we put it out there in case I'm not here. But we can give the mayor access to the page as well, so he can update in the middle of the night if you'd like, or whenever things happen. Or he can create a mayor's page. I know some cities I've noticed have a page just for the mayor, but either way.
I think that when you have something like that, because the question becomes, if you have a boil water alert, how would everybody know that type of thing? But if they're getting consistent information from the same place, that would be, when you have low water pressure, that would be the first place you'd go to.
Yes.
And, you know, there's a leak, we're on it, we'll give you more details when we know it.
Right, and I'm assuming once we do have a new public works director in place, they'll have the emergency phone. That way they would know when all of these different things happen, and that's why I would like for them to have access, because I feel like people go to our Facebook page more than our website.
They do.
We look at that as well, but I would like for that person, so anytime something
But maybe you and the
happens,
mayor can get together and see if we can't get that, so that he has access.
I can add.
Because he can, you know, he can make a quick
Yes,
post,
definitely.
so we're not getting our information from the mayor of the work.
Is that what happened? I don't know. But yes, we can do that.
Okay, any more questions or comments? All right, then I'm gonna go to number 4, brief staff reports on our several fiscal topics, including, the status of the CDCD's bank account balances and other items as presented by the city finance director. Mr. Dean?
Before we start, does everybody have the 2 sheets? Or whatever the packet?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just want to be sure that, let's see,
Is that it?
well, I want to be sure that you don't have several copies here.
No.
Some of mine look like there's several copies.
It's 2 pages, Ken?
It's 2 pages.
That's what.
I got some, I got more than I'm supposed to have.
So if you take 2 pages, I can tell you that the second page is less on it than the first page, unless you.
Yeah, those 2.
So, how many are there supposed to be?
2 pages.
Just
Just 2 pages. So we got 102 pages.
These are just all copies.
These are all copies. Bless your heart. Bless your heart.
There's so much paper. That's what I'm telling you. You have to.
Google Drive, baby.
Yes.
I'm glad it's only
We're gonna be here at 12 o'clock.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Ken.
The first one is the investment account. This was updated today as well. This one.
Yes.
Oh, this one, I was on the wrong this one.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. If you look at it, the first one, you see what we have as Suntrust, the maturity date is June 21st. So we have to start thinking about whether we're going to roll it over or maybe to.
2020.
No, sorry.
Oh, no,
You're talking
At the
about
bottom.
the
Yeah.
So you're gonna do one
At the
thousand.
bottom, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Suntrust is June 21st. So we have to think about whether rolling it over or maybe investing it elsewhere, sourcing for higher rates and moving it elsewhere. But the rest, the maturity date, as you can see, is 2024, the unrestricted investment fund and the restricted, the other one is August 19th of 2020 as well. The only one that is coming due is the Suntrust for 2021.
Could you possibly send that out, see where we can get the best rates? Who would give us the best rates on
Yeah,
that,
I can do
Lisa?
that, yes.
Okay, so if we just do that, that'd be perfect, that would be awesome.
Should it be just local within Georgia? Can I go outside Georgia and look for better rates as well?
Well, we've just been trying to keep up with our local banks, is what we've been trying to do.
If you can get better rates.
You are welcome to go where you think, and we'll go from there.
Okay, we'll do.
Show me the money.
Yeah, show me the money.
Get some good rates over in China.
have in the general operating fund. We have, the general fund is, still looks good. Except the 2000, this 2008 plus, we still have $1.30 that has been given us. We'll need to spend that soon, because they're not supposed to charge us an interest rate on that one, because their system is set in such a way that at the end of every month, I have to call them and let them know that that is a city account, because their system charges interest on that. So every now and then, at the end of the month, it goes into the red. So I have to call them and they will readjust their system to leave the $1.30 there. But it's been there for a while. It's about time.
Can we not just transfer that somewhere and close that account?
I think it's supposed to be expensed through recreation,
Right.
recreation department.
Can we not just make a motion that when we pay this fencing bill, that we use the 2008 splosh and the 2015 splosh so we can zero that out?
Do this, we need to do that.
Do we do that? Okay, so let me just make a note.
Yeah.
That. So when we pay the fencing bill, all right. All right.
That's the only thing there. Debt service funds still look good after making the transfers at the end of every month. So we should have enough at the end of. The first interest payment comes up in June, and then the second interest payment and the principal payment comes up later in December. But we should have a sizable amount still remaining in that account, even after the interest and principals have been paid. That's all the X about it.
Okay, anybody have any questions on the account?
The debt service fund is $584,000. That's where the interest comes out from that we pay in June.
Yes, sir. The interest comes out. The interest and principal comes out of that.
Okay, but we only pay one.
No, we pay one in June and the second in December
Yes.
with the principal.
But we will keep adding to that, though.
Yes, sir. Every month. at the
Put
end
it
of-
down and then.
Yes.
If there's no questions, I'm done with my committee.
Nothing done?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, that brings us to Personnel Committee, chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Richard Brighton.
Okay. Report review key sections of the Temple Employee Handbook. This is it. It is now available to be sent electronically to each person's email address.
Kristen,
She hasn't got it. It's on your computer. You're the only one that's got a copy.
I can get it to you tomorrow and I'll email it out to everybody.
Right. So the deal is based on all of everything that we've been reviewing, the punch list, everything is in here. When you get the copy, there will be some things that are asking basic questions like, is this correct? Is this correct? We're going to make sure that those questions are given to the attorney so that they can just be plugged in. So don't look like this is a bullet like this where it's asking questions. Howard and I have gone back through and checked and double checked that, make sure that that's the correct information. Because nothing really is changing, especially for the benefits of the employees. Of course, we've talked at length how we want the employees to hold the appeals process and all that. Be sure to look that over and make sure that meets with your approval. Howard and I read it, we reread it, we talked about it, and it looks like that it was pretty much exactly like we requested. So, it is not, the whole process, the main thing to remember is it does not give automatic appeal. It has to be submitted and approved for that. So be sure to look over this, because we'd like to put that on the agenda to be voted on. Coming Monday. But if anybody, for any reason, feels that that is too quick, we can always take it. Does that make sense?
Well, even if we approve it, we can always go back and amend it.
Yeah.
Correct? So,
Well, remember, all of the highlighted areas and all of the stricken through areas is what the attorney did, that's not what.
Right, no, and he was making the changes, but you remember the punch list that everybody has, that he was going back in to max that up. There were a couple of things in there that was in it that we didn't feel like the educational assistance, some things like that. We talked at length about the floating holidays. I think most everybody was not, that seemed to be pretty much to go. And then the other was, the one thing that I think would be, is would anybody want, I don't know how to do this, I don't want to, I know we can't vote, but the whole deal is, there is no there is no sharing of sick leave. That never has been a policy, never has been. So there's no mechanism. We talked about it for a little while, but there is no mechanism for shared sick leave. And then it was the general consensus that not to have the floating holidays. So that's pretty much it. Any questions on that? And if you have any questions, Mr. Osborne should be able to answer them, whatever. All right. So take that electronically, and if you want it in a physical copy, that can always be provided that you can see and make a copy of that. All right. Nothing else, then report on job, report on job description, salary changes to the position of code enforcement officer and several other governments in the state of Georgia. Mr. Osborne.
And I'm working on that, and what you will have for Monday night is you will have the salary ranges from several local governments in the general area. I will make a recommendation to you, but obviously you would be able to select from whatever you decided, but you would have the information from the other cities just in the job description. You've already approved the change in the job description. You remember you added some additional responsibilities. You took off the job duty of issuing, what was it, sign permits?
Yeah, we took up, yes.
But we'll have that for you for Monday night.
Okay. And just kind of as any questions about that? Okay. And
Okay, who issues the sign permits if the code is not involved with?
Well,
Cindy issues that permit.
I don't think, since I've been here, even before or after we had code enforcement, it was handled otherwise.
It's probably a minimal number.
Yeah.
the next project, kind of the parallel with this, it's not on there, but for information purposes, we've taken the next step with the job descriptions and the pay scale, and we're going to start working towards making sure that our pay scale is in balance with what we're actually doing, getting it defined, how to deal with those job descriptions and what have you. And at a point, does the database still exist where you can just go in and quickly get comparative salaries from other communities of like size?
Krista, do you know that? I don't know.
Yes, sir.
It's still on the
GMA's
GMA
website.
website.
I can do that, yes, sir.
Okay, so we're probably going to need some staff help on pulling some of that information for us. Any questions about personnel? If not, that's it.
Thank you, sir. Community Development Committee, Part 2. Councilmember Chair Holly Miller.
Number one, staff report concerning the steps to subdivide one or more lots and/or to combine one or more lots. Bill?
If you would, I know back toward the end, because we're giving you your books before we got certain things done and certain things we didn't get done, but you first find a memo from the combining or subdividing lots. This is just a FYI, not asking you to do anything. But a couple of weeks ago, we received an email from the Carroll County Assessor's Office saying they had an application to combine two parcels within the city limits. And she was new, but she'd been told that they had the authority to combine them without involving anybody here with the city of Temple. We made contact and told her that, no, if you're going to be subdividing and combining parcels, that needed to be going through our rezoning process. I did make contact with the city attorney and did get back, as you can see at the bottom of the page, his opinion. Don't know that this was has been a major problem, because we didn't know that they were necessarily doing that. And it may have been just on rare occasions. The one that came that brought this up, I did just make you a copy of showing from the records in the assessor's office, and you can see the two lots at Old Bremen and Wells, and they were looking at just going ahead and combining them without any action on our part. We have gotten involved in that. We've got 3 or 4 of these on subdividing property or combining property, and we'll be taking those to the planning commission in the near future, and we'll be coming to you sometime within the next few weeks. I know Ronald Woody's got one that he's working on, and we've got a couple of others. We'll just wanted to make that report and just let you be aware. No action needed.
Number 2, report on plans by the Georgia Municipal Association for 2019 Georgia Cities Week on April 21st through the 27th, with the theme Georgia Cities True Colors and a preliminary identification and brief discussion of ways in which the city of Temple might participate.
So I don't really have a lot to report on this item, but as we know, Georgia Cities Week is coming up in April. And now that we have a special events committee, I'm hoping that we can get them on board to help us plan some activities. I know in the past we've been through some things, and if we did things during the daytime, people complained that they worked and couldn't come to it. We did something at night, and after hours once, people complained about that too, or didn't show up. So I don't really know what the answer is or what we need to do, but if y'all can help brainstorm, and I'll get our special events committee involved and come up with some activities for the week. The next item after that is related to the Highway 78 yard sale. Mr. Osborne asked me to check on a date for that. I haven't have a concrete date online or anyone that really knows about that, but if it follows past history, it's been the 3rd Saturday of the month, which will be April 21st, which is the start of Georgia Cities Week. I know in the past several years for the Highway 78 yard sale, y'all did a resolution to waive the $5 yard sale permit for that event. So I don't know if that's something you want to consider, but we've always tied that into Georgia Cities Week because it happens at the same time. But as far as the events the city's planned, we're just really in the preliminary stages of trying to figure out what we're going to do.
I think the waiving of the fee should be on the agenda for Monday night, because we've always waived those fees.
Well, then the issue becomes this: if that's correct, that Saturday is the same Saturday we're doing the Easter egg hunt. If it's the 3rd Saturday, because that Saturday is the Saturday before Easter.
But we could say that we're going to waive it, not going to date it. Because you said you didn't know for sure.
I haven't seen a concrete date anywhere.
But we
from
could
the
say for
notes,
that
but-
particular, that
Yeah.
Highway 78 thing, that we could just waive the fee for that event, regardless of the date. Right,
So we can put that on.
please, I think so. A lot of people in Temple would do that.
Any other questions, comments?
All right, thank you. Public Works Committee, Part 2, Mr. Tom Wallace.
Okay, number one, report on engineering service proposal pertaining to the City of Temple's project to upgrade its water billing and meter reading system through an automated meter infrastructure operation. Mr. Osborne.
Let me make a brief report on that, and then after my report on that item, before we dig in on waste industries, George Scala has given you a public works report that he's done. If you could take him before we deal with waste industries. But just very briefly, we now have received a proposal from a company. We've got to set up a meeting. The mayor and I have met with him once, and meet with him again. This includes the option of dealing with Georgia Power, who we had reported to you on. And that's one I felt like it was worth delaying, moving forward with where we were until we could chase that down, because that would certainly make a big difference in terms of our capital outlay costs. But we'll, we have more to report to you on Monday in terms of when we'd be meeting, but I would say we're close to coming to you to say, okay, here's what we need to do to start the project going on the water.
Okay. You got anything to add on
You want me to just talk about the public works events for the month? I know it wasn't really listed in there, but.
Well, we'll move on to number 2. Discussion of the City of Temple's current agreement with Waste Industries, and need to notify this company within the next 5 weeks if the local government wants to solicit proposals from other companies, as well from the current provider of solid waste collection and disposal services.
Hey, Mr. Wallace, I think this is where we were talking about George giving his report, and speaking to this before we get into the waste industry topic.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think everybody has a copy of the report I submitted. I tried to do something new, trying to get a good evaluation on what's happening in public works and give you a better idea of the big picture that's going on. As you know, most of our work is water, reading water meters, fixing water stuff and things like that. So we had over 200 work orders completed. And sewer, we had 7 work orders completed. You don't have that one?
I've looked at that one already. And I looked at it.
And sewer, we had quite a few sewer problems over the thing. MS4 and road work, okay. We finished Lakeview. Everybody, I think, is pretty happy with Lakeview. We tried to start Old Bremen and repave Old Bremen, but the weather and equipment failures got us down. We have a tractor that needs to be worked on, and then once that's done, we'll repave Old Bremen. We've been working on the sewer system, looking at all the manhole covers, trying to find where our biggest problem is: intrusion from the groundwater and soil and roots and fat. We're currently tackling fat, soils and grease with a letter that's going out that I previously spoke to. If you look on the second page, it talks about 150 work orders for this month on water. That's not been done yet. Stormwater problems, we fixed culverts on Rome Street, Old Bremen, Bradley, Breckenridge, Webster Lake, Lakeview, and Katy. We didn't get any grass cutting in because there's no grass to cut. Litter pickup, the work crew picked up the streets that you see. There were road repairs on Rome, Little Vine, Katy, Katy Boulevard, and Rainy. That's normally cold patching that we do. Sewer maintenance, Center Point lift station, I believe we had a float go bad there, but we weren't reading high level, and when that happens, you typically get an overflow. but we didn't get one that time. Bradley Street was another sensor problem. Villa Rosa we had communication problems through our SCADA system. SCADA system is how we receive the data saying, this lift station is doing something bad, and this is how we get it, and then we get a text message to our phones. I receive it, and Dave Lewis receives it. And then we saw where the problems come up. And then the manholes cover system, I think we've got about 2,000 in the city, 2,000 manholes that we got to go through. So we're doing try to do about 5 a day is what we're going to try to do. And right now, we got 20 done this last month just because we were overwhelmed with regular work. And then, of course, the crew cleaned out a lot of cities, cleared out buildings in cities, and then upcoming projects, like I said, Old Bremen. That's going to cost us $1,500, I believe. Wasn't it, Bill? Wasn't it? Fire hydrants repairs are going to be $750 to $1,000, and there's 6 of those. The storm drain system, we've been working out at Webster Lake. I don't know if everybody's gone to the end of Old Bremen Road. You keep going through there, that's Webster Lake Phase 2. And there was an MS4 storm drain system there that got destroyed and created a big pond. So we've been in the process of draining that pond and fixing that particular system right there. In March, we're going to start, like I said, going through the city, cleaning out the storm drains, cleaning out the ditches and everything like that. On Stedham Road, we got some curbing that is damaged and the sidewalks damaged. The young one called us and we got it handled, got taken care of. Lift station repairs, we got a lot of building going on around here, and while our sewer plant can handle, we're only like 25% of that, our lift stations are going to be extremely challenged to handle that. So we need to start looking at upgrading and figuring out how we're going to handle that flow. Because I estimate it to be about $100,000 at least a month, and that's not including the rain intrusion that comes in when it rains. I already talked about manhole inspections. Booster pump at Villa Rosa, it's a 2-pump station. One was down, we got it fixed, so now we're back up to the CSI we need to be. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
What tractor are we working on? Do we have problems with?
It's the backhoe, the yellow one, the John Deere. Yeah, the hydraulics got filled with water, and it locked up on us, so we're going to have the hoses drained, the filters replaced, and new hydraulic fluid installed. It's not that expensive. I should have an estimate on the price probably later this week.
Well, why are we doing repairs on Katy Street if we just paved it?
There was a pothole somewhere along down that road. It might have been on the side of the road, but somebody was complaining about a bump right there, so we put
Paved the entire street. That's all I have.
Any other questions?
Little Vine, the repairs are done, they're going.
Yeah, Little Vine's a constant losing battle. We put patch in it, and they kick it right back out, because you know that junkyard is down that way, and there's a lot of logging going on down that road. Little Vine needs a complete overhaul, right? Because we can patch it, and you know the topping is only about maybe 1 inch, 2 inches thick. We have to actually cut down into it, patch the whole thing up, but then it'd be just one big puzzle. But we try to keep it up as best we can, but that's a losing battle for us.
Anything else? Okay, that concludes that. Let's go to the number 2, about the discussion for the current agreement with the waste industry. Mr. Osborne.
We, of course, had talked about this last month. I've given you exactly the same attachment that we had in there last month, plus a short cover memo, and basically the message of short cover memo is that we're getting close to the deadline. I haven't decided what you want to do. We have got to let Waste Industries know very soon if we're going to just let the contract roll over, or if we're going to to shop around. Now, we could either do this at your meeting next Monday, or we can have a special call meeting during the month of March, and we're likely to do so. But you can't wait till your April meeting, because your April meeting, you hit the 90th day, I think, on March 31st, or it may be April 1st, but if you gotta let them know at least 90 days in advance, you don't want to miss it by 1 day. So, don't have to have any discussion tonight.
Put it on the agenda.
But we need to decide what we're gonna do.
Put it on the agenda.
Any other questions on that?
Well, Waste Industry's gonna go up on us again. Don't they have an increase every year?
I'm sorry.
Don't they have an increase every year, Waste?
They have certain things built in terms of increases. I don't remember, I'd have to go back and look at the contract. But we do know what has happened in recent years, that one reason we're 10 grand in the hole is that they've been going up and you were holding steady, so you were having to pick up the extra charges out of your share. But among other things we do have to look at is you might be able to separate these out, but at some point you're going to have to decide, are you interested in continuing what you've got now, with each person deciding whether he uses your service or not. And the fact of the matter is, in all the businesses you've got in the city, only I think the Waffle House goes through the city, and none of the other businesses pay you anything. There's been,
From the financial standpoint, we can't do that. We're $13,000 in the hole every year. We've got, if we decide not to shop around, then we need to decide to put in that contract that everybody goes through waste contract with the city. That includes residents too. All the way across, because you're $13,000 in the hole, and if they've got built-in costs, and we're just letting them roll over, 13 gonna turn into 30 before we know it, and then where we gonna be? From a financial standpoint, if we're not gonna shop around, we really need to get our P's and Q's in this contract so we can get a good contract, so we can at least get the money flowing back through the city. Otherwise, you're gonna be going up on everybody and everything at one time. We're gonna have meetings, town hall meetings full of people wanting to know why we're all doing it now.
I agree.
Anybody else?
As we look at this too, I would like for us to find out if any other municipality within Carroll County or even neighboring counties affords citizens the choice of self-waste management or not. And, my thinking is that we are a rare entity in allowing our citizens to make that choice. But I'd like for us to be able to research it to verify that is indeed the case.
Same with the commercial.
Well, yeah, same with commercial, and, we're going to need Waste Industries to cooperate with us in terms of providing and routing those businesses through us instead of dealing directly, and so on.
Well, I have a question. If we're already losing money for what we're charging today,
Yep.
and we add more people on the list, are we going to be losing even more money unless we have a rate increase?
yes, sir.
So any way you look at it, you're going to have a rate increase.
Things gotta come from somewhere.
Exactly.
You're gonna have to have one on the small containers, the residential. They haven't had one in,
I don't think we've ever got one. This is what we started on. And the other thing is, another problem with that was we were paying out a lot more than people were paying in, because we don't know who's got them and who don't have them. So we don't have a clue how many people we're being billed for and how many people we're charging. That was our other situation.
That's what, we need to know that.
Exactly.
If we make it mandatory, would we get a better rate?
Well, the other thing is, I've asked 5 cities around here, nobody seems to have anybody else other than Waste
That's
Management
it.
that does it. There's nobody else to be it.
Correction, Waste Industries.
I mean, Waste Industries is,
Yeah, there is a Waste Management,
yes,
but
For this location,
They basically have a monopoly.
exactly.
Can you find out how many containers they're charging us for on the residential? I know what, I think the contract says.
But it can't, that contract can't be correct because those are people moving in and out.
Right.
So it had to be a minimum if they were gonna charge us the same amount.
Well, they're better about picking up,
Sir,
are they better about picking up cans and delivering cans to you?
they are doing better on that. The Samantha spends a good bit of time on the phone with them,
Making sure.
making sure and everything. But as y'all are saying, I mean, we can get information in terms of the number of pickups that they did. But insofar as people, all of those same people on our utility billing system, or whether we've got people that are getting picked up and therefore we're being
Right.
charged that aren't paying the city anything.
Right.
Okay. Number 3, preliminary report concerning plan for the City of Temple's annual spring cleanup day. George?
I think spring cleanup is like fall cleanup around here. We get a dumpster from Waste Industries, and then we put it out where the police station used to be in that parking lot. People come around and dump it. I think we keep it open for the weekend. I think that's been what's been the last few years. And I was talking with Kristen. We're going to try to see if we can't get some kind of special events committee to help people walk around and pick up trash and something like that, just to get the community involved.
You got a date set for that?
No, I don't have a date yet. You can give me some guidance on that. Because I know spring is quite busy, just listening to what the April thing was going.
Well, I was fixing to say if we were gonna do that, I'd like to do that somewhere before we do that big Easter thing.
Yeah,
So
at
the
least a
city-
week before.
Yes, so the city, is cleaned up at least.
We can do it April Fool.
Hey, sounds good to me.
Okay, so early April would be recommended.
Any questions? Number 4, updated report on the use of the fire hydrant by the Faithful Guardian Training School in Temple, including possible financial arrangements. Mr. Osborne?
Both 4 and 5, I didn't get around to doing either one of those. I'll have to report to you on those on Monday. What happens when you take 2 days off?
Well, I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
What about the signage on our water trucks?
That's still a work in progress. We went out and talked to another vendor. We can get the signs cheaper, and the guy who was gonna charge us more money to make the signs and put them on, can put them on. And it won't cost us, it'll cost us a lot less, about 50% less, I think. So I should have, probably by the end of the month.
Okay, that concludes my part 2 of Public Works Committee.
all right, thank you, sir. All right, we have no need for executive session, so that brings us to closing comments. Ms. Bivens? Mr. Walden? Mr. Wallace?
None at all.
Ms. Miller? All right, well, I'm gonna mess up this thing right here. But very briefly, to augment what Mayor Pro Tem was talking about with regard posting information on Facebook, et cetera, perhaps we could also look into augmenting that with a system that, something similar to what our county schools have used for quite a while, and that is, inclement weather, reasons for delay, and, you know, whatever schedule changes they might have to have, they do a robocall to folks who register with them. And if we took phone numbers from our accounts, perhaps if it's not too expensive, I don't have any idea, that we might be able to do robocalls to anybody that's on the system, informing them of whatever that we need to inform them about. And I didn't come up with this. A senior citizen from the city called in, and she didn't lose water the day of this problem. And so she didn't realize there was any issues with water until she saw the noonday news. And so she consumed water out of her faucet because she didn't know any different. And plus, when we rely upon social media, we're going to miss people. And if we can come up with something that is more effective in reaching everybody, or at least almost everybody, then, you know, that'd be something for us to consider. So hopefully we can look into that. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Just very quickly, after adjournment, if you want a copy of this, I can't remember what we sent and what we didn't send. I've got two things here from GMA. As you may know, there was legislation introduced, it has passed out of the House Committee by a 6-5 vote. And basically, it would take away from local governments the power to adopt design standards for residential homes. In other words, it would pretty well destroy your ability to deal with housing standards in any kind of fashion. Can't believe this will actually end up passing through the General Assembly, but it is something that I know GMA is very concerned about, and I know I did have one of my friends with the Douglasville City Council. She had called the delegation to try to get them to be sure to be opposed to this. So, like I say, when we get through, if any of you, I can't remember what we sent out, but this is the most recent one and the most detailed, I think. We'll put these, let me give you, this was the first one, the Holy Cow one.
It's in the very back of the book, I think, Howard, for mine.
Yeah, and I got some, but I'm not sure that, especially the second one, I'm not sure that the new version, so anyway.
I believe to supplement what you just shared, I think also GMA provided a sample resolution if the council has any desire to pass a resolution to send to our delegation in Atlanta of what you feel about it. All right, anything else? Yeah, let's put that on there. All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion we adjourn.
All in favor, let us know by saying aye.
Aye.